Chapter 16, Talent Abandoned by the Heavens 4. Absorbing and comprehending information about every space I traversed was not an ordinary task. It was dizzying, especially when combined with the practice of maintaining constant sword energy. Now, this task included perceiving auditory information from every moment I passed through. It wasn't just about perceiving auditory information from noisy streets. Rustle, rustle. The sound of clothes brushing against each other. Thud, thud. The sound of footsteps. Huff, huff, huff. The sound of breathing. I had to consciously perceive all these sounds continuously. Dizzying. Doing all this simultaneously, I felt not just a headache, but dizziness to the point of near collapse. I wondered if I could even engage in martial duels in this state, especially now, when there are hardly any sects left to duel with. For about 30 years, I traveled all over Yanghua, challenging almost every small and medium sects to duels. Occasionally, I even visited major sects for duels. As a result, there was hardly a place in Yanghua I hadn't been to. I now resorted to battling bandits and water bandits rampaging through Yanghua, capturing them. The problem was these evil men never fought fairly, especially when chased down. The most desperate ones even resorted to throwing explosive pellets they somehow acquired. In this dizzy state, I had to fight such men. Can I even preserve my life? Sigh. I sighed and firmly gripped my sword. After all, this was the path I chose. Even if I die, I will walk this path. I looked at the 6 books piled up in front of me. You survived again this time. Yes, this time as well. 15 years had passed. 45 years since my return. In the meantime, I met Kim Young-hoon 3 more times and received 3 more sets of insights, making a total of 6 volumes of insights from Kim Young-hoon. During this time, I mastered processing not only visual and auditory information, but also touch, taste, and smell continuously and adeptly. Now, when I met a martial artist of late first rate, my understanding of the 5 senses, sword energy, and immense practical experience allowed me to start with a 70% chance of winning against martial artists of the same level. Of course, this was without considering the power of my martial arts. Including that, my winning probability reached 99%. If it was a real fight allowing the use of toxins and hidden weapons, I could guarantee victory against any late first-rate martial artist. Moreover, with the ability to process information using the 5 senses and my understanding of constantly using sword energy, I could now face a peak master for about 10 to 20 exchanges. Of course, it was difficult to continue beyond that. That was the end. I still hadn't become a peak master. Still, my existence has spread among the core formation cultivators. It seems I'm wanted. 2 core formation cultivators laid a trap and waited for me. I barely escaped. Still, I managed to inflict a small wound on the cheek of one of them. You've gained even more insights. What insights? Despite all this, I still can't properly confront core formation cultivators. Assuming I don't run away, I can't even last 100 exchanges against them. It's impossible to inflict any meaningful damage. He gazed at the sky with a sense of futility and mused. Honestly, I sometimes wonder whether the extreme of 5 energies converging to the origin I've reached is the end for martial artists. Perhaps the martial artist who created record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts had similar thoughts. No matter how hard we try, it's impossible to defeat cultivators with martial arts. I quietly looked at Kim Young-hoon. Despite writing 6 books full of astonishing insights, he held a small teacup, his face etched with a hollow smile. Clearly, he possessed talent given by the heavens. And I, talent abandoned by the heavens. Clearly, he and I were in starkly opposite situations. Yet, somehow, I saw my reflection in Kim Young-hoon. Myself, who could not grasp even a hint of the pinnacle realm despite numerous lifetimes of effort. His situation, where no possibility of defeating cultivators appeared despite repeated lifetimes. Clearly, a genius given by the heavens and a dullard abandoned by the heavens. Why then did we seem so similar? By the way, I still don't understand why I haven't reached the pinnacle realm. It's frustrating for me too. Kim Young-hoon looked at me with a slightly bitter expression. Why can't you reach that realm despite mimicking the world of peak masters, including sword energy? I can't grasp what's missing. He let out a hollow laugh and stood up. Let's have a sparring session after a long time. That sounds like good news. Kim Young-hoon and I left the guest house and headed towards a nearby forest. Upon reaching a suitable clearing, I unsheathed my sword without a word. The sword energy, which I had been maintaining continuously for 7 days and nights, flickered on my sword. Your understanding of sword energy is considerable. You'd quickly reach the stage of sword silk once you attain the pinnacle realm, Kim Young-hoon observed, noticing the aura of my sword. I smiled bitterly. The hypothesis after reaching the pinnacle realm was meaningless. It was already the 45th year since my return. I only had about 5 years of life left, and the likelihood of becoming a peak master within that time was slim. A realm that I couldn't reach despite dedicating my entire life. Would any special enlightenment come within these 5 years? Then, let's begin. I took up a fighting stance, my expression intense. Severing mountain swordsmanship. 16th move. Mountain tiger. Swoosh. 6 sword energies from the upper left to the lower right. 6 from the upper right to the lower left. A total of 12 sword energies converged towards Kim Young-hoon's heart. Ting. Kim Young-hoon didn't even draw his saber. He simply flicked his finger, and my technique dissipated instantly. However, I didn't panic and immediately launched another move. Severing mountain swordsmanship. 12th move. 9 lights emerging peak. A more evolved sword technique that sent 9 sword energies his way. You've significantly reduced your vulnerabilities. Swoosh. Kim Young-hoon quickly deployed his movement technique, dodging all my sword energies, and quietly commended me. I didn't respond, but quickly took another fighting stance. Severing mountain swordsmanship. 17th move. Mountain and valley transformation. Boom, bang, bang. I sent sword energies in all directions, absorbing them into the earth with the principle of infiltration and then detonating them after a delay. A decisive move of the severing mountain swordsmanship. Boom, bang. The surrounding terrain transformed under my will. Sword energies emerging from the ground surged towards Kim Young-hoon. Whoosh. But when he swiped his finger horizontally, the sword energies I launched lost their power and scattered into the air. Severing vein saber method. 8th move, mountain scream. Whoosh. He extended his finger towards me again. Boom. The saber energy emanating from his finger overturned the ground as it surged towards me. Severing mountain swordsmanship. 18th move. Echoing valley. Whoosh. I infused sword energy into my sword, and simultaneously, I withdrew all force from it. Though it sounded absurd, echoing valley required just that. I filled my sword with energy while maintaining its form, removing all intent and miscellaneous forces, leaving only a hollow form of energy. With all my concentration, I maintained the emptiness in my sword and faced the incoming saber energy. Gur. Immense pressure traveled up my arm, but simultaneously, the saber energy that surged towards me was absorbed into my sword. I emptied my intent from the sword and filled it with the opponent's intent. Then, with a swift turn, I exerted all my strength to fling the energy in another direction. Boom. The mountain scream Kim Young-hoon launched destroyed several trees and shattered a huge rock. Hew hew. I sweat profusely and trembling. Echoing valley was originally a counterattack technique that absorbed the opponent's energy and intent, returning it back to them. However, I could only manage to deflect the attack. Still far off. Gritting my teeth, I took up my stance again and charged. Severing mountain swordsmanship. 19th move. Mountain echoes, valley response. Whoosh. My sword vibrated, and my sword energy morphed into waves, spreading in all directions before suddenly converging towards Kim Young-hoon. An inescapable decisive technique. But he just smiled, lifting his hand, and saber energy burst from his fingertips. Whoosh, bang, bang, bang. Spinning and dancing, he flicked his hand each time, deflecting the converging sword energies. Whoosh, thump, thump, thump. He deflected countless sword energies and then extended his finger towards me again. Severing vein saber method. 9th move, dragon's mount. Rumble. The fearsome saber energy, twisting like a dragon, flew towards me. Can I withstand it? No. Even trying to deflect it with my sword would tear me apart due to the intricate changes in his technique. I need to take a risk. I confront it head-on. Severing mountain swordsmanship. 20th move. 9 mountains, 8 seas. I spun in place with my sword, once, twice, thrice, then again. With each spin, the speed and power of my sword grew exponentially. After 9 spins, the power within my sword had become terrifyingly immense. With every bit of my being, I slashed at the oncoming saber energy in all directions. Boom. A massive explosion sounded, and I witnessed my sword shatter. Flung backward by the shockwave, I crashed into a large tree, spitting blood and kneeling. My defeat was evident. Damn it. What seems to be the problem? Kim Young-hoon sighed softly. I don't know. I can't fathom why you're still in this realm. You should have become a peak master long ago. What do you mean? I asked, catching my breath. It was absurd. I had never even come close to enlightenment, let alone reached the pinnacle realm. Intriguing. Why is this happening? After pondering, Kim Young-hoon looked at me thoughtfully and suggested, perhaps you lack a catalyst. A catalyst? Yes, a catalyst. Like desperation or a driving force. Something that would push your talent beyond its limits with extreme concentration. What kind of catalyst are you talking about? I cut him off, yelling furiously with veins bulging in my eyes. I've wielded a sword for over 50 years. My entire life. I've longed to transcend to the next realm. You're telling me I need to be more desperate? How much more? I screamed as if in agony, disregarding the pain in my entire body. I've struggled my whole life to break free from being first-rate. What am I lacking? What more do I need to do? I've unblocked all my meridians that I even sleep with my hand on my sword, flowing sword energy. I've reached a point where I even collect and process information in my dreams. But why? Why? Why won't the heavens show me the next realm? Why? I thrashed about, screaming at the sky. I knew it was undignified for someone nearly 70. But, having pursued the sword and yearned for the pinnacle realm all my life, yet never even grasping what that realm might be, how could I not be in anguish? Why, just why? Sobbing, I looked up at the sky. Kim Young-hoon watched me with a heavy heart, then flicked his finger towards the tree I had crashed into. Splat! Immediately, a significant volume of martial arts techniques filled the tree. I've created martial arts to supplement your weaknesses during our spar. It's hardly a consolation, but I hope you'll master them and find some peace. After speaking, Kim Young-hoon disappeared like a phantom again. I gazed at the sky for a while before turning my attention to the martial art techniques he left. There were two: Mountain Lord martial arts and Transcending Peak Step. In just a short sparring session, he had effortlessly created two martial arts. I marveled at his incredible talent for martial arts and slowly studied the two techniques. Mountain Lord martial arts was a body technique. It dealt with pressuring the enemy with the presence of a mountain lord, creating movements like a tiger. Transcending Peak Step was a footwork technique. Uniquely, it allowed one to take any step and assume the stance of the first move of Severing Mountain swordsmanship, Transcending Peaks. Given the nature of Severing Mountain swordsmanship, any subsequent move could follow, allowing for endless combinations. Using Mountain Lord martial arts and Transcending Peaks Step together, it would be possible to pressure the enemy with the presence of a Mountain Lord and relentlessly attack with Transcending Peaks Step, a technique to dry up and kill the opponent. These two perfectly complement the Severing Mountain swordsmanship. As so, they were also relatively easy to learn. I suddenly reflected on my martial prowess. Now, against a first-rate martial artist, I can guarantee a 100% win rate without resorting to tricks. I had completely surpassed the first-rate level. Yet, I still hadn't reached the pinnacle realm. Somewhere between first-rate and the pinnacle. That was my current level of skill. How long must I remain in this realm? Catalyst. I mulled over Kim Young-hoon's words. What am I lacking? I couldn't figure it out. Time flowed on like a river. Once again, 50 years have passed since my return. My days were numbered. I had surpassed the first-rate level but was still not at the pinnacle realm. I was tired of wielding the sword. In my past life, I swung my sword until my dying breath. But in this life, despite being more skilled than before, swinging the sword felt burdensome. I guess the reason. There's no meaning to it, that's why. For 50 years, I wielded the sword. Yet, I never became a peak master. What's the point of swinging the sword when death is near? It would all be the same anyway. Is he dead? That day, I swung my sword and looked up at the sky. Kim Young-hoon hadn't appeared for almost 5 years. The last time we met, he was being pursued by core formation cultivators. Perhaps he was caught and killed by one or two of them. This must be our fate, his and mine. When was my death due? Perhaps in a few days, my vital energy would be exhausted, and I would die. Even now, swinging the sword was an act of willpower. To overcome. Whoosh. The limits. Whoosh. As a human. Whoosh. There's only so far you can go. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I sighed and gazed aimlessly at the sky. With my talent, struggling all this time was my limit. And his talent too had its limits. Yes, starting from the next life, I should try a different approach. Knowing that I couldn't become a peak in a lifetime, I might as well beg cultivators for some elixir to attain spiritual quality. That would be the best I could do. Even if mortals struggle, they can't escape the destiny set by the heavens. Cough. Ah. Suddenly, Kim Young-hoon appeared beside me like a phantom, coughing up blood. Cough, cough. What nonsense are you spouting, Seo Eun-hyun? No, it's not that. Cough. Gagging. Despite coughing up blood, he was laughing. Both his arms were severed, and one eye was missing, scarred by a cut. Damn it, what happened? You're in bad shape. I was startled by his sudden appearance and hurried to check his pulse and fetch medical tools. Then, something grabbed my nape. Ah, what is this? Weren't his arms severed? Something invisible was holding my nape. And Kim Young-hoon, despite coughing up blood, was laughing hysterically. Look, the price for blowing off one of the core formation cultivator's arms. I have inflicted significant damage on a core formation cultivator. What? I have seen the realm beyond the 5 energies converging to the origin with my own 2 eyes. He continued speaking while spewing blood. I reached it by risking my life, burning my life. Look, Eun-hyun, I traveled hundreds of miles to show you. I decided to entrust my last words to you. Whoosh. Above Kim Young-hoon's head, a concentration of saber energy formed. I wasn't particularly surprised. Projecting internal energy into the air was a feat he'd shown several times after reaching the pinnacle realm. Gradually, The sword energy began to shine and change. It was Gang Chi. This is something he's done even in the five energies realm. But then, the Gang Chi began to change again. The Gang Chi started compressing into a sphere. It was a change I'd never seen before in my several lifetimes following Kim Young-hoon. Like the day he first entered the five energies realm. 5 small spheres hovered above his head. The Gang Chi morphed into a small spherical shape. With this, I could blow off a core formation cultivator's arm. Before, I could only fight chi-building cultivators using ambushes or surprise attacks. But with this, I can face them head-on in a battle of strength. Look, Eun-hyun. This is the result of surpassing the martial arts of the martial world I've pursued my whole life. Whoosh. Kim Young-hoon launched the spherical mass of Gang Chi towards the back of my house. Boom. An enormous explosion sounded, and the house I had built with all the money I had gathered over 50 years was destroyed in a second. My house. For a moment, I felt a mix of numbness and rage, but I managed to suppress it and examine the power of the martial art he displayed. The 3-story building exploded completely. There's hardly any debris left. Luckily, there were no servants around. Otherwise, it could have killed hundreds in one blow. Most importantly, the hundreds, thousands, even tens of thousands of saber marks in the remaining debris. That Gang Chi sphere contained tens of thousands of saber energies. The power is unimaginable. It's stronger than any martial art Kim Young-hoon has shown since reaching the 5 energies realm. His claim about being able to confront cultivators in a head-on battle of strength seemed plausible. Moreover, his martial arts, which began with record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, were primarily designed for ambush and escape. So ambushing a core formation cultivator with this could have easily blown off an arm. I came to show you. Eun-hyun, he whispered faintly, reciting some martial formulas. Remember, these formulas. They are the essence of my realizations, compressed. Please, pass on my martial arts to future generations. Don't speak. I'll treat you. I applied pressure points to stop his bleeding and was about to take him to a nearby doctor. Whoosh. A middle-aged man in blue robes appeared in the sky above my house. I found you. Extreme monster. So, you've been hiding here. Listen, mortal. This man has committed grave crimes against the celestial clan of cultivators. Leave him and go. You've come to punish him? Yes. Don't tell me you're an associate of this extreme monster? Planning to protect him? Useless. Thud. Before the man could finish speaking, I hoisted Kim Young-hoon on my back and dashed towards a nearby mountain range. TSK, he seems to be an associate of the extreme monster. Didn't he hear from the extreme monster about his cultivators? The middle-aged man's voice seemed to echo everywhere. Well, let's enjoy this last bit of entertainment. Run, if you can. Swoosh. From the direction where the middle-aged man was, light burst, and several black masses fell to the ground. Thud, thud, thud. The masses that fell to the ground rose up and started chasing after me. Are those corpses? Moving corpses. Jiangshi, Chinese zombies. Wart. The Jiangshi chased after me. Unlike old me, these dead things didn't tire and kept charging. By the way, extreme monster. Is that a nickname given by the cultivators? Unique. I kept talking to keep the barely conscious Kim Young-hoon awake while fleeing. 2 monsters being chased by Jiangshi in their old age. What a peculiar sight. Damn it. I knew this would happen when you started picking fights with those cultivators. But if you were going to do that, you should have won outright. Why just blow off an arm? What's the point? A Jiangshi that had gotten close extended its claws at me. Damn it. Corpses are immune to poison. Thwack. I threw a hidden weapon, hitting the Jiangshi's ankle joint precisely. The Jiangshi stumbled and fell, and I took the opportunity to flee even farther. Damn it. Shouldn't you be carrying me and running? Given you've reverted to a younger body? I'm out of breath. Why are your arms cut off anyway? The Jiangshi relentlessly pursued me. I gritted my teeth and kept running. Morning passed, noon passed, and night fell. How many times had the sun risen and set? Huff, huff. I ended up cornered in a dead end. A large cliff behind me blocked the way, and Jiangshi surrounded me in front. Amazing. A mere mortal withstanding my Jiangshi for 3 days and nights. Huff, huff. I looked up at the middle-aged man floating in the sky, gasping for breath. Now you have nowhere to run, and there's no need. The extreme monster is already dead, isn't he? Mortal. Huff, huff. Sweat poured down like rain. My legs trembled. But with the last of my willpower from 50 years of training, I spoke to the cultivator. I know. Any first-rate doctor can recognize a corpse. That Kim Young-hoon, this madman, died of excessive bleeding. I know that. Then why did you run? Mortal, I'm only interested in the extreme monster's head. Your insignificant life means nothing to me. You should have just left the body and fled. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. I laughed crazily and slowly laid down Kim Young-hoon's body. This man was my martial arts master. Is it right to hand over my master's body to an outsider, even if you are a cultivator? Severing mountain swordsmanship, dragon vein, chi method, mountain lord martial arts, and transcending peak step, and everything else that helped me reach this level. It was all thanks to Kim Young-hoon's teachings. He was a fellow countryman and also my martial arts master. If you want my master's head, you'll have to take mine first. How dare you speak so boldly to a practitioner of the Tao? You've got some nerve. It seems like your vital energy is depleting and you don't have much time left. Are you being brave because you're about to die? My shout seemed to irk the middle-aged man in blue robes. These mortals, ignorant of what it means to be a Taoist cultivator. It seems they don't understand what we are capable of. Are you not afraid of death? Or do you not value your life? In that case, I'll show you. Cultivators of the Tao have the power to inflict suffering worse than death. The man in blue robes began muttering some incantation, extending his hand towards me. I hastily dodged, anticipating an attack, but his spell targeted not me, but something else. What is this? The cultivator's spell had settled into Kim Young-hoon's corpse, and the dead man began to rise again. The surrounding jianshi, each detached an arm and threw it towards the reanimating corpse of Kim Young-hoon. The arms of the jianshi attached to the shoulders of Kim Young-hoon's corpse. A jianshi? The cultivator had turned Kim Young-hoon into a jianshi with his spell. You wretched mortal, how dare you scream in the presence of a Taoist cultivator? Now pay the price. Go on, extreme monster, kill this disciple of yours with your own hands. Hurrah! The corpse of Kim Young-hoon staggered and then lunged at me. I quickly drew my sword to block his strike and retreated. This vile cultivator, to dishonor the spirit of the deceased in such a way. I gritted my teeth, blocking each attack from the transformed jianshi. Fortunately, he can't use his martial arts from his lifetime. He was only pushing me with the strength and speed of a jianshi. Naturally, the strength infused by the cultivator seemed formidable, imposing a tremendous burden on my aged body with its sheer power and speed. Damn it, damn it! With each strike of my sword, my eyes reddened in rage. Every slash I made at Kim Young-hoon's body felt like a tremendous insult. I'm sorry, but I steeled my heart and took my fighting stance. If this is how it is, let's end it quickly. Severing mountain swordsmanship. 21st move. Heavenly Lake. Old memories rushed in. Why is the 21st move of severing mountain swordsmanship called Heavenly Lake? All other stances have names related to valleys, peaks, or mountains, but why this one? Early in this life, I had asked Kim Young-hoon, wondering if he knew since the revised severing mountain swordsmanship included this stance by his previous cycle's self. Heavenly Lake? It reminds me of Baekdu Mountain's Heavenly Lake. Baekdu Mountain? Haha, yes. Does this world also have a Heavenly Lake like Baekdu Mountain? Or maybe someone from Korea like us named this move. Haha, I guess so. Heavenly Lake. A vast lake reflecting the sky. A vast pool located at the highest mountain peak. The spirit of that terrain naturally emanated from me. Imagery of Heavenly Lake, along with the countless memories of being taught martial arts by Kim Young-hoon, came to mind. The essence of severing mountain swordsmanship flowed through my memory. The Heavenly Lake holds the myriad forms of the heavens, yet it itself never changes. In essence, the symbolized heaven represents the object I contend with. The lake that contains it signifies my single strike. Crash. Sword energy swept over Kim Young-hoon's entire body, and my sword was sheathed back into its scabbard. In an instant, his movements froze. The 21st move of severing mountain swordsmanship, Heavenly Lake, is a technique that momentarily suppresses the opponent's movements by drawing in all the power flowing through their meridians into my sword energy, trapping it within my sword. A skill that could only be executed by someone who is both a first-rate doctor and an expert in the 8 extraordinary meridians. A martial art exclusively tailored for me, an extraordinary move that no one but I could perform. Rumble. Within the sheathed sword, the briefly stolen power surged. Left alone, it would eventually dissipate, but I chose to preserve this energy and resumed the stance for the next move. Severing mountain swordsmanship, 22nd move. Excluding the 23rd and 24th moves, which are more conceptual and theoretical. The true secret technique of severing mountain swordsmanship. If the corpse is intact, it could be used by the cultivator as a zombie. Therefore, I have to leave no corpse behind. Rest in peace. Severing mountain swordsmanship. The secret technique. Severing mountain. The content of the severing mountain swordsmanship's secret technique was not grandiose. True to its purpose of cutting through mountains, it was simply about making brute sword cuts. Starting from the first move, transcending peaks, all the way to the 21st move, Heavenly Lake, pouring all the moves at once on the opponent. That was the secret technique of severing mountain swordsmanship, severing mountain. The first move, transcending peaks. With the unsheathing of the sword, I rode the flow of power stolen from Kim Young-hoon's body, cutting him horizontally. The second move, entering mountain, quickly switching to a lower stance to strike his legs. The third move, ascending vein. cutting upward while holding the sword from the lower stance. The fourth move, Flowing Ridge, sending winding sword energy to stab. The fifth move, Bouldered Cliff, rotating and delivering several slashing strikes. The sixth move, Strange Stone, changing the grip and adding a deceptive move. The seventh move, Deep Mountain, returning into a defensive posture and cutting diagonally upward. The eighth move, Secluded Valley, twisting and nullifying the opponent's force aimed at me. The ninth move, Landscape Painting, delivering diagonal sword energy strikes from left and right, totaling 6 slashes. The 10th move, Dragon Vein, drawing up energy to make a large cut. The 11th move, Cliff Edge, cutting again from below upward. The 12th move, 9 Lights Emerging Peak, sending 9 streams of sword energy beyond. By this point, Kim Young-hoon's body was completely tattered, to completely obliterate it, so that the cultivator could not revive any part and desecrate the spirit. Even in its tattered state, it writhed and attacked me again. Tremendous power and speed. I must avoid it. No, what's the point of avoiding? My life is already at its end. A life already destined for death. At this moment, to ensure that my master's legacy is no longer insulted, burn everything. Arg. The 13th move, Joy of Mountains and Peaks, striking down 5 slashes and then another 5. 10 slashes in total, enveloping him from all directions. Kaya. The Jiangshi's hand broke through the barrage of slashes, attacking me. I'm going to die. I can't die yet. More, just a bit more. Draw more energy. My brain processed and input information faster. The surrounding space, sound, smell, the humidity and temperature, the taste of blood on my tongue. It felt like my brain would explode. Let it burst. More and more. Until my brain burns completely. The 14th move, Qi Mountain Heart Heaven. The Dragon Vein Qi method surged, and my momentum grew immense. Simultaneously, sword energy condensed, taking the form of sword silk. In this situation, a direct strike was inevitable. And then, crackle, my brain, under the pressure of impending death, burst through something. Is this my imagination? Red and blue. All the colors of the world vanished, leaving only these two. Red and blue. Is this? A red line extended from Kim Young-hoon's fingertips to my head. Instinctively, I sensed it was the next attack. Whoosh. I avoided the attack with minimal movement and raised my sword. A blue line stretched from my sword to his ribs. Instinctively, I sensed it was the optimal path for me. Entranced, I followed the blue line with my sword. Flash. My sword cut through his upper body. Somehow, Kim Young-hoon's face seemed to be smiling faintly. Seeing that faint smile, I repeated a thought I had before. A genius bestowed by heaven, and a dunce abandoned by heaven. Poles apart, yet we seemed alike. The reason was, because in the fate given by the heavens, we both struggled desperately. Here, there are neither geniuses nor dunces. Only those who spent their lives resisting fate, and those who will die doing the same. Yes, as long as we live in the fate given by the heavens, talent is irrelevant. We are similar humans. Is this how you're ending it? On his corpse, it seemed Kim Young-hoon's face from his living days was reflected. Of course not. As if bewitched, I continued to unleash my sword. The 15th move, Layered Mountains. Thousands of sword energies thinly split, becoming a storm that enveloped his entire body. A defensive move originally used to nullify the opponent's energy evolved into a lethal strike, optimized for the situation. The 16th move, Mountain Tiger. The claws and fangs of the tiger living in the layered mountains concentrated at a single point, tearing through his body. The 17th move, Mountain and Valley Transformation. Sword energy sent to the ground changed the terrain, shaking his foundation. The 18th move, Echoing Valley. Emptying my intent in the sword energy to counter and strike back. The 19th move, Mountains Echoes, Valleys Respond. Sword energy transformed into a wave, delivering a strike that he couldn't avoid, shredding his body. The 20th move, 9 Mountains, 8 Seas. Rotating several times on the spot and delivering cuts in all directions, tearing apart his form. The 21st move, Heavenly Lake. Swinging the sword again, gathering all the waves, flows, and power I had unleashed into the sword. Rumble. The power of all the waves, flows, and power from the 20 moves of Severing Mountain swordsmanship were gathered. This vast energy was suppressed inside the sheathed sword. I unsheathed my sword again, just like at the beginning, concentrating all this power into a single slashing strike. Severing Mountain swordsmanship. My 22nd move. The secret technique. Severing Mountain. The essence of Severing Mountain swordsmanship in a single strike. Releasing this final strike, I saw the passing of my life before my eyes. Yes. This is the end. Flash. With my strike, Kim Young-hoon's body completely shattered, scattering in all directions. Now, even if a cultivator comes, his body cannot be further desecrated. Thus, I ascended to the new realm I had longed for. and concluded this tenacious life. That was my fourth return. Translator notes. Here's an extra chapter, longest chapter so far, for Christmas, and to finish up the arc. Chapter 17, Fourth Cycle's First Day. Oh, I opened my eyes. A familiar feeling. Another regression, it seems. I recalled the last moments of my past life, resisting until the very end. Finally, I have ascended. Yes, I'm fully conscious now. In that last moment, I reached the peak. Overwhelmed with excitement, I looked up at the sky, oblivious to my surroundings, and shouted. Finally, at last, I had reached the long-coveted peak. Buzz. A familiar sound echoes. John Myung-hoon, a face I haven't seen in a while, is there. But I didn't even glance in his direction, just closed my eyes again. Swoosh. John Myung-hoon's hand cuts through the air towards me. Feeling his movement, I awakened, that sensation I had reached just before dying. I can see it. Even with my eyes closed, it's vivid. A red trajectory was aimed at my cheek. With my eyes still shut, I dodged John Myung-hoon's slap with the optimum movement. This guy dodged it. Whoosh whoosh. John Myung-hoon swung his hands several more times, but I, still with closed eyes, dodged every one of his strikes with minimal movement. I can see it. John Myung-hoon's next move. The direction of his hand. It's searely visible. In the past, I could dodge someone like John Myung-hoon without even looking, but that was all based on decades of martial arts training and predicting where he'll strike. But now it's different. The red thread lines reveal his path. Whether my eyes are open or closed, these thread lines are vividly present. This is not prediction, but more like premonition. Is this the vision of a peak master? I finally understood why a first-rate master, even when outnumbering the enemy, could never defeat a peak master. It's visible. The direction and trajectory of attacks by inferior first-rate warriors are clearly visible. How could they win if their attacks can't even touch a peak master? To confront a peak master, a first-rate warrior would need to attack with dozens of people in a swarm strategy, setting aside the direction and trajectory of the attack. I set my determination and faced John Myung-hoon, who was rushing towards me. At the same time, the red lines indicating his trajectory disappeared, and my vision was filled with blue lines. Face, shoulders, chest, arms, flanks, stomach, lower abdomen, pelvis, legs, knees, feet. Blue lines densely targeted dozens of spots. Instinctively, I knew. These blue lines indicate the opponent's vulnerabilities and the optimal path for my attack. The gap in combat skills between me and John Myung-hoon must be so vast that so many vulnerabilities are exposed. So that's it. The red and blue back then. A master of 3 flowers. The first I've seen in this city besides myself. 3 flowers aren't common. Most live their lives only in red and blue. I, too, haven't met a master like you in a long time. A conversation between Kim Young-hoon and Pal Jiktae, Supreme Elder of the Chao River sect, during my second regression. Pal Jiktae indeed mentioned red and blue back then. At the time, I didn't understand a word, but now I do. He was talking about this vision that peak masters see. The red line to read the opponent's attack. The blue line for the optimal attack. This dual-colored world, where one can exchange gaps, was the world of peak masters, the red and blue world he mentioned. When I reached this conclusion, drip. What? I suddenly felt a nosebleed. At the same time, I felt pain. It hurts, as if my brain is burning. Damn, does using this vision overload the brain? I quickly sealed the acupoints of John Myung-hoon, who was rushing at me, quickly deactivated vision, and put him to sleep with sleep-inducing herbs. There was pain the moment I activated vision, but I ignored it. However, as the usage time extended, the pain intensified, eventually feeling like my brain was burning. The time I used vision in the scuffle with John Myung-hoon was mere moments, and yet the pain is this intense. What's the problem? After pondering for a while, I calmed my still confused colleagues, took them to a cave, lit a fire, cooked fruits and grilled mushrooms, and put them to sleep. After the sun set and all my colleagues were asleep, I sat outside the cave and organized my thoughts. Let's sort out what Pinnacle Realm is all about. The Pinnacle Realm essentially overloads the brain to visualize and read the opponent's path of combat. Even for a blind person, if they can read the opponent's path, 2 colors vividly appear in their mind, as if experiencing it. It's more than visualization. It's like my brain arbitrarily colors the paths I foresee in blue and red. Using this vision, I can read every movement of my opponent and target their vulnerabilities with the optimal path. This is why, in my past life, Kim Young-hoon's constant application of maximized senses to me seemed like an imitation of the Pinnacle Realm. I indirectly calculated the opponent's path by maximizing the senses. But due to my lack of talent, I only awakened to this Pinnacle Realm at the very end, despite having imitated it. Amazing. Once again, I looked at the world through the vision of the pinnacle realm. Watching the leaves fall at night, I envisioned the blue lines. Hundreds, thousands of blue threads appeared, directed at the leaves. I grabbed a nearby branch and swung it towards the leaves. The branch was blunt, not even shaped like a sword. Even the leaves, fresh and fluttering in the night breeze, were not easy targets. Yet, the moment I struck the leaves with the branch, following the optimal path the blue lines showed, they were sliced. Crack! The leaves were cut cleanly in half by the blunt branch, not imbued with any internal energy. On the first day of my regression in my previous life, I had briefly reached this state. I was unconscious then, but now my consciousness is clear. I stood up, holding the branch, and danced with it as if it were a sword. As I danced amidst the fluttering leaves, they all were cut by the branch. Swish, swish. Countless sword strokes pierced the leaves. Thousands of optimal paths extended before my eyes. I closed my eyes, imagining the fluttering leaves as first-rate masters. With no internal energy and only a slightly thick branch in hand, could I defeat so many first-rate masters? I can win. First-rate masters, each armed with their weapons, charged at me. Spears, swords, hidden weapons, maces, polearms, fists, lances, broadswords, and countless other weapons assaulted me. But I wasn't afraid. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Continuously dancing with my sword, I dodged the first-rate master's weapons and linked the optimal sword paths. With my single sword stroke, their techniques were dismantled, their balance destroyed, and all were defeated. When I opened my eyes, there were numerous split leaves around me. Drip. Despite the nosebleed and the burning sensation in my brain from using the vision, I felt exhilarated. I am now a peak master. I stopped the nosebleed with a medicinal herb, then wandered around digging up centuries-old yellow bamboo roots. Perhaps the inability to maintain the vision for long is due to the lack of internal energy. A certain level of internal energy is necessary to endure and extend the duration of the vision. After digging up the roots, I chewed and swallowed them right there, leaving only a few for Kim Young-hoon. Now that I had ascended to a peak master, there was no need to sell them. Yellow bamboo roots. I'll leave just a couple for Kim Young-hoon and consume the rest. There were about 10 roots around my vicinity in Ascension Path, and probably more if I expanded my search, but it wasn't necessary. I consumed 8 yellow bamboo roots, excluding the 2 for Kim Young-hoon. Gurgling. Guided by the Dragon Vein Chi method, the immense spiritual power of the yellow bamboo roots surged through my meridians. Phew. An immense reserve of internal energy accumulated in an instant. I had more internal energy now than in my previous life, where I had practiced for 50 years. Shall I try again? Aided massive internal energy, I activated the peak master's vision again. I practiced with the vision for about an hour with no significant issues. The burning discomfort started after about a meal's time. That's my limit, about an hour and a half. No matter how much internal power I had, it only delayed the onset of pain. It didn't eliminate it. The only way is to repeatedly train using the peak master's vision, to reduce the burning pain and gradually acclimate my brain to the vision. Endless training is the answer. I might not be a genius, but this is the best way for someone not born with talent. This life's goal is to first overcome the burning pain when using the peak master's vision, and ultimately, 3 flowers gather at the summit. To reach the 3 flowers gather at the summit, also known as the pinnacle of pinnacle, I won't aim for the 5 energies converging to the origin realm in this life. The 3 flowers gather at the summit is already challenging enough. The realm of 3 flowers was somewhat graspable. As the supreme elder of Chao River sect said, the third. Red symbolizes the enemy's intent, blue, my intent. Besides these, there is a third color, the line that separates the 3 flowers gather at the summit from the rest of the pinnacle realm. The third, though I can't quite grasp what it is. The leap from first rate to peak felt insurmountable, but reaching the 3 flowers gather at the summit from the peak seems slightly easier. Smiling, I looked at Kim Young-hoon, sleeping in the cave. Surely, I'll be able to learn much more from him now. Having reached the peak, the level of teaching I could receive from Kim Young-hoon would be incomparable to when I was just a first-rate master. Moreover, I possessed the 6 volumes of insights and the final formula left by the previous Kim Young-hoon. This life's Kim Young-hoon will certainly surpass the one from before. I, too, in this life, will achieve the 3 flowers gather at the summit and get closer to being a true cultivator. With that resolution, I peacefully watched the rising morning sun in front of the cave. Translator notes. Things start to get a bit more interesting from now on. Chapter 18, Peak Master 1. The morning dawned. As in previous regressions, the 3-tailed fox as large as a house, the supposed ruler of this forest, came to visit us. I bowed simply to the fox and offered my arm, proposing his tribute. During this, a curiosity struck me. Would I see red lines on the fox? As the fox drooled over my arm, I activated the vision of a peak master. I then witnessed a terrifying sight. Red everywhere. The whole world around me was covered in red. Gasp. If humans had shown me trajectories in the shape of lines, the fox was different. From the center of its forehead, a crimson light engulfed everything around. It wasn't just lines. It was more than a surface. It was a three-dimensional form, with the red light devouring the surrounding space. I can't win. Acknowledging the fox's red light, its domain, I could only extend my arm in awe. Crunch, crunch. Even as the fox chewed off my arm, I could only groan in astonishment, observing its domain. What is this? How can space be filled with red light like this? I couldn't understand. What kind of creature was this? And then, a few days later, the arrival of cultivators made me wear an astonished expression again. Red. The three monsters who came to retrieve John Myung-hoon, Oh Hyun-suk, and Kong Min-hee were similar to the fox, with red light emanating from them, engulfing the space around. That's when I understood the difference between cultivators and martial artists. In martial arts, at best, their paths and intents form lines. But with cultivators, for some reason, their intents take over the entire space. I imagined fighting those cultivators in a space dominated by their red light. I can't win. I understood why even the lowest cultivators were on par with a peak master. Even without actual combat experience, if they can dominate space with their intents like that, it's impossible for a peak master to read a cultivator's intentions. Conversely, within their dominated space, a cultivator would know everything like the back of their hand. It was a complete mismatch in terms of compatibility. The next day, after they took my colleagues, I seized the opportunity to ask Sea Dragon King Seo Huiol, who came for Deputy Manager Oh Hyeseo. I have a question for Lord Sea Dragon King. What is it? After briefly explaining what I saw, I asked about the cultivator's red territory. Seo Huiol laughed and explained to me. Cultivators all possess something called divine consciousness. Ordinary mortals' consciousness doesn't extend beyond their brain, but cultivators can extend it to cover the surrounding space, allowing them to know anything they wish. I, as a spiritual creature, have the same ability. Is this answer sufficient? Thank you. Since our conversation was in the language of Yinghua, Kim Young-hoon and others seemed to not understand. Shortly after Seo Huiol left, a hunchbacked grotesque figure appeared to take Manager Kim away, pushing me and Kim Young-hoon into a spatial rift. I lost consciousness again. Splash! Exclamation point. Gurgling, bubbling. I suddenly found myself engulfed in a current, snapped to my senses, and struggled. What's this? It was underwater. Gulp, gulp. Regaining my senses, I swam towards the light above. Having learned to swim decently in my past life while hunting water bandits, I had no problem swimming. Puff, damn it. Last time it was a tree, now it's underwater. What variety? It was likely Yinghua again, but the problem was I was randomly dropped somewhere in Yinghua. Looking around, it was a large lake. Wait, where's Kim Young-hoon? While scanning the surroundings, I suddenly looked down into the lake. I saw Kim Young-hoon with bubbles escaping his mouth, sinking below. Damn, he'll die if I leave him. I quickly swam down, lifted Kim Young-hoon, and swam back to the surface. On the shore, I laid Kim Young-hoon down and used acupressure to force the water out of his lungs and stomach. Splush. Kim Young-hoon spat out water from his mouth and nose, and seemed to regain consciousness after a while. Gasp. Where is this? We're completely somewhere else. After briefly explaining the situation to him, we surveyed our surroundings. Judging by the location, this must be Chicken Head Lake, I mused. The lake was named so because, from above, it resembled the head of a chicken. After 4 lifetimes, there was no place in Yinghua I didn't know. Nearby should be Changho City. Ugh, what do we do? If we've fallen completely somewhere else? Are there any people around? It seems so. Look, there's a building over there. Oh really? I pointed to a waterborne building erected at the corner of Chicken Head Lake. I can swim, so I'll go to that building and borrow some clothes, money, and food. Wait, will they understand you? Actually, I've learned Chinese, and it seems to work well enough. I'll teach you later. After making an excuse, I swam towards the building. If my memory serves me right, this building was the Den of Chicken Waterway Fort, a place I had raided in my past life. The head of Chicken Waterway Fort was a late first-rate master, and the vice leader was mid-first-rate. The other 4 major bandits seemed to be barely first-rate. The rest were insignificant, mostly between third and second-rate. Still, I had to previously use poison due to their numbers. Splash, splash. A few second-rate water bandits, keeping watch at the den, shouted upon seeing me. Hey, who are you, man? Haha, who's this crazy guy? Swimming to Chicken Waterway Fort? Ha ha ha. Is he trying to join the fort or what? Looks like a newbie. Ha ha. I ignored their remarks and slowly approached the building. Then, one of the bandits started to lower his trousers. Ha ha, hey newbie. If you want to enter the main house, you have to undergo hazing. Drip, drip. A yellow stream accompanied by a foul smell came towards me. Droplets of the yellow liquid splashed on my head. The guy aimed directly at my head, trying to hit me with it. Splat, splat. Calmly taking the hit, I climbed up Chicken Waterway Fort. But, thump, thump. How dare you come up here? Won't you go back down? Man, hurry up and take the holy water baptism from the brother. Ha ha. The low-ranked bandits pushed me with wooden sticks, trying to push me back into the water. I ignored their attacks and eventually made it up to the fort. Damn it, I told you not to come up. A bandit with a wooden stick charged at me. Whack. KRR. Art. I kicked his ankle at an invisible speed, knocking him down. Decent enough. I picked up the wooden stick he dropped, weighed it in my hand, and held on to it. First you. How many have you killed in Chicken Waterway Fort? You damn bastard. I've killed more than 50 with my own hands. Thwack. I didn't wait for his full response and swung the stick, beheading him. Next, you guys. How many have you killed so far? What the hell is he doing? Swoosh, swoosh. The remaining bandits drew their swords without hesitation and charged at me. Seeing no hesitation in your stabs, you must have killed a lot. Swoosh, swoosh. I swung the stick again, cleanly slicing the charging bandits and dropping them into the water. Ugh. Wait a minute. The last one left was the bandit who had urinated on me. I'm a newbie in Chicken Waterway Fort. I haven't killed anyone yet. The others called you brother. Please spare. Whoosh. Swoosh. I cleanly cut him from his lower parts to his head. Splat. After washing off the dirty urine with the blood of the bandits, I entered deeper into fort. Bandits were wildly smoking cigarettes and drugs, drinking, and playing with women. The women, mostly captured, were tied up and bruised. Haha, what's that? A bandit noticed me covered in blood and rubbed his eyes. What's this? What kind of guy is this? Hey, grab your weapons. Looks like we have a guest. Though drunk, they were used to killing people and naturally took positions with their weapons. There's no need to ask about those inside. Whoosh. I infused the wooden stick with sword energy. Die, all of you. What are you doing? Welcome the guest. Yah. He. From the front, above, and both sides, the water bandits, each holding a weapon, rushed towards me. I entered the vision of a peak master. Red lines were prevalent all around. Those lines were the trajectories of attacks aimed at me. So this is what it feels to be at the peak. It felt somewhat ludicrous, knowing in advance that none of them could touch me. I closed my eyes. For facing such people, sight was unnecessary. With my eyes closed, not listening to any sound, not paying attention to touch, focusing only on the red lines, I raised the stick in my hand. First move, transcending peaks. Swoosh. Bending my waist, I dodged the weapons of the first three, then swung my sword horizontally, bisecting them. Second move, entering mountain. Switching to a lower stance, I cut off the legs of 5 bandits, charging from around. Third move, ascending vein. In the lower stance, I adjusted my grip on the sword and swung upwards. Then, using the transcending peak step, I leaped into the middle of the bandits and swung my sword again. Transcending peaks, entering mountain, ascending vein. Continuously using these 3 basic techniques, I avoided the red lines and extended my sword energy in the direction the blue lines indicated, cutting them all down. Transcending peaks, entering mountain, ascending vein. Ascending vein, entering mountain, ascending vein. Transcending peaks, ascending vein, entering mountain. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With minimal movement, I cut down all the bandits. When no more red lines aimed at me were visible, I opened my eyes to find a sea of blood around me. Ugh, arg, arg. Looking to one side, the leader of Chicken Waterway Fort was writhing, trying to crawl out. From my memory, he was a late first-rate master. Among those I had recklessly cut down, he was one of them. Hey. I approached the nearly dead leader and spoke to him. Peak master. Spare me. Hey, I have one question for you. How long have I been fighting in this place? About 1 moment. All right, thanks. Die. Wow, wait. The money, where I hid it. Swoosh. I didn't wait for his answer and beheaded him. I already knew where you hid your private funds from my last visit. Leaving the leader's head, I freed the tied women and went to the prison, releasing those who seemed to be captives. Thank you, great hero. Thank you for avenging us against those damn water bandits. I nodded to the captives and women thanking me, and went to the leader's room to take out 2 of the most decent-looking sets of clothes. Then, I broke the wall of the leader's room and took out a small wooden chest containing his hidden funds. When I opened the chest, there were 3 silver ingots inside. He was a thrifty bandit. I changed out of my blood-stained clothes into the leader's clothes and boarded a rowboat attached to the fort. Gr great hero. If you could tell me your name or title, I will surely repay you. Name or title? When one of the freed captives asked, I pondered, scratching my head. I haven't regressed for long, so I didn't spend much time yet. After a moment of thought, I brought up the title I used in my past life. My title is Infinite Fighting Monster. That's all you need to know. Thank you, great hero. I will surely repay you someday. I understand I'm off then, so make sure you all get out safely. To avoid any further hassle, I rowed the boat back to the lakeshore. Kim Young-hoon was waiting for me there. Oh, you changed your clothes? Yes, the owner was kind enough to give them to me. I told him our situation, and he even lent us money. Such a simple and kind person. It's refreshing to see such countryside generosity. We should thank the owner. I couldn't see the house well from afar, but what kind of place was it? As far as I heard, it's like something made by local fishermen. A place made for easier fishing, something like that. Is that so? That's quite interesting. I half listened to Kim Young-hoon, and together we headed towards the nearby Changho city. In my past life, it took about a day to raid Chicken Waterway Fort and annihilate them. That too involved pre-poisoning them and setting fire to Chicken Waterway Fort to kill as many possible with carbon monoxide poisoning. Even with all that, it took a day to annihilate them. But now, fighting in the Pinnacle realm, I wiped them all out in just a moment. All that with just a wooden stick. That was the difference between peak and first-rate. In my previous life, as a first-rate warrior, I obtained things suitable for first-rate. Now as a peak master, I can obtain things befitting a peak master. It hadn't been long since I regressed, but this life seems more promising than any previous one. Chapter 19, Peak Master 2. Together with Kim Young-hoon, I headed to Changho City and used the money looted from the bandits to create identity plaques and buy a manor. There, I taught him literacy and martial arts. About 2 months later, he's growing faster. Slightly bemused, I watched Kim Young-hoon consuming yellow bamboo roots and entering the realm of 3 flowers gather at the summit. It seemed that my ascension to a peak master and earnestly imparting a first-rate martial art, severing vein saber method, had spurred such rapid growth. It's a bit anticlimactic. But it was always like this. While some spent a lifetime reaching the pinnacle realm, others, with the guidance of a peak master and first-rate martial arts, leapfrogged the pinnacle realm and directly entered 3 flowers. Soon, 3 flower-like energies were absorbed through his nose and mouth, and Kim Young-hoon half opened his eyes. His eyes gleamed with wisdom. Congratulations on reaching 3 flowers gather at the summit. To think you achieved it before even fully learning literacy. I find it astonishing myself. Who knew I had such martial talent? I looked at Kim Young-hoon impassively. A hint of competitive spirit arose in me. Up until now, after Kim Young-hoon reached 3 flowers, I never really sparred with him. It was always him guiding me in practice spars. What about now? Me, having ascended to peak master, and Kim Young-hoon, who has just reached 3 flowers. Firstly, congratulations. How about a sparring match? Sparring sounds good. Somehow, I feel I might win this time. He drew his saber, igniting his competitive spirit. I drew my sword as well. In the manor's practice yard, 2 peak masters began their duel. Ping! I launched my killing intent at Kim Young-hoon. Dozens of blue lines attached themselves to him. Dozens of optimal paths targeted him. Then, Kim Young-hoon readjusted his stance. Dozens of blue lines disappeared. His weaknesses vanished, rendering all my potential attacks useless. Simultaneously, hundreds of red thread lines targeted me. I shifted my stance to eliminate my vulnerabilities and prepared to counterattack Kim Young-hoon's moves. As I did, the red lines extending from him receded. How intertwined our red and blue lines must have been. Kim Young-hoon initiated the attack. Severing vein saber, mountain wind. Ping! A piercing attack with astonishing speed. Yet, from that pierce, hundreds more red lines branched out. A sign of numerous follow-up moves. Severing mountain swordsmanship, strange stone. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I spun in place, taking a defensive and offensive posture, blocking his thrust. Severing vein saber, grand white. His thrust twisted in midair, slashing from my upper right to lower left. Severing mountain swordsmanship, transcending peaks. I countered his saber with a horizontal slash, then recalculated dozens of paths. My blue lines targeted his head, waist, and legs. Severing mountain swordsmanship, entering mountain. I switched to a lower stance and aimed for his leg. In that brief moment, dozens of blue and red lines exchanged between us. Severing vein saber, dragon's mount. Similar to severing mountain swordsmanship's flowing ridge, but with more intricate variations, the technique descended upon me. In that brief moment, dozens more thread lines exchanged in the air between us. We had already exchanged dozens of moves in this imaginary realm. Dodge? No, dodging would keep pushing me back. That would lead to defeat. It doesn't matter. It's just a sparring match. But a surge of competitiveness rose within me. Why? All right. In this life, this might be my only chance to beat Kim Young-hoon. From now on, he will grow exponentially like a fish in water or a runaway train. Next time we spar, he'll be beyond my reach. This time, when he's just ascended to 3 flowers, is my last chance in this life to defeat him. Yes, let's win. Even if it means using everything I have. I quickly moved my hand, grabbing a hidden weapon from my sleeve. Infinite Fighting Hidden Weapon Technique, Direct Snake. Pivot. The small weapon I launched from my hand flew towards Kim Young-hoon's face. He dodged quickly, his face showing surprise. But that gave me an opening in his stance. Ting. I deflected his saber and went on the offensive. Severing Mountain Swordsmanship, Flowing Ridge. Fwit. The serpentine sword energy shot towards him. It's blocked. A red line is drawn at an angle that could deflect my sword. At the same time, a new branch extends from that line aiming for my shoulder. After deflecting, counterattack. Swish. Simultaneously, I pull out another weapon from my sleeve. Holding the weapon, the number of blue lines I can use doubles. His red lines changes. The red branch that stretched from his saber to my shoulder now shifts towards my weapon. Only after deflecting my weapon does the red branch stretch back towards me. Good, but it's still not enough. I have more real combat experience. Dragon Vein, Chi Mountain, Heart Heaven, Cliff Edge. I incorporate 3 techniques into one movement. With Dragon Vein, I rapidly circulate my internal energy to strengthen my sword energy. Simultaneously, I open all the meridians in my body with Chi Mountain, Heart Heaven to further strengthen the energy. With Cliff Edge, I vary the speed of my sword to make it difficult to react. Swish. Sword silk forms at the tip of my sword, materializing the internal energy. However, despite unleashing my enhanced sword energy, Kim Young-hoon swiftly retreated using a stepping technique, avoiding a direct hit. My sword only grazed his chest, causing a small scratch. That's it. I've got the momentum. Mountain Lord's Martial Arts, Transcending Peak Step. I charge with the momentum of a Mountain Lord, approaching with Transcending Peak Step, then using Mountain Tiger to feign multiple strikes, while actually using a diversion tactic to engage in a melee. At the same time, ping, ping. I launch the weapon in my other hand while clashing blades with him. Though I'm pushing him back, Kim Young-hoon finds an opportunity to counterattack, extending several red lines. Treating it as real combat, I seize every opportunity. From throwing sand from the ground, spitting hidden needles, and persisting with tricky attacks. Kim Young-hoon, gradually cornered, infuses more energy into his saber with frustration. Boom. The momentum shifts. Dangerous. Something big is coming. I'll show you the realm of 3 flowers gather at the summit. Boom. The energy in his saber begins to transform. The intangible saber energy condenses, forming tangible threads like silk, evolving once again. That's the energy enveloping his saber fully materializes, emitting a bright white light. Saber silk. Ta. The bright white light engulfs everything in front of me. If I clash with it, my sword will likely be cut in 2. Any peak master would face the same fate. But my Severing Mountain swordsmanship was created by a genius of the era, who had reached the absolute of martial arts. Severing Mountain swordsmanship, Echoing Valley. A technique that shook off even Kim Young-hoon's energy in the previous life. If it's his energy at this early stage of 3 flowers gather at the summit, it's possible. Boom. Remove intent from the sword, make it empty, and then accept the opponent's force. Reversed. Quong. I receive Kim Young-hoon's energy and counter it back at him. A loud explosion follows, and Kim Young-hoon steps back 3 paces. Impressive. Flung. Kim Young-hoon's saber splits in 2. Inside, I'm shocked. He countered my reversal with his energy in that short time. By my calculations, when I countered with Echoing Valley, he should have been thrown back, his saber shattered. But in that moment, he recaptured his saber energy and countered with it. I admit defeat. My weapon is broken, a disgrace for any warrior. You're quite skilled, aren't you? Don't worry. From now on, I will never be able to beat you again. I sheath my sword and speak calmly. After today's duel, I won't be able to beat Kim Young-hoon in my next life either. He grew in real time during the fight and will become stronger after consolidating his insights. Fighting me, he gained near-real combat experience and will soon become one of the top 3 great warriors. Actually, I prepared a congratulatory gift for you reaching the pinnacle realm. Oh, wasn't this duel the gift? Is there more? Yes, here. I entered the house and gave him 6 books I had prepared. This is Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts Scripture. I bought it from an old man. The minimum requirement is 3 flowers gathering at the summit. I read it but couldn't understand, so I'm giving it to you. Oh, what a fortunate encounter. I'll read it gratefully. The insights gained from the record of Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts were maximized by Kim Young-hoon of the previous cycle and organized into various profound realizations. I handed him the books, not as records, but as scriptures. Now, with the Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts Scripture, he will become so strong that I can't even dare to face him. After teaching him more literacy and language for about a month, I went on to earn a living by slaughtering bandit groups and unorthodox sects near Changho City and capturing wanted criminals. Once Young Hoon had learned all the characters, he spent about 4 months training crazily while looking at the 6 volumes of Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts Scripture, his expression half-dazed. For months past like this, Young Hoon Hyung, I've earned some money. I returned home with a bounty from capturing a famous late-stage master bandit near Changho City. But Kim Young Hoon was not at home. What? Did he go out? He had been reading the scripture and training martial arts as if possessed, but today, he was nowhere to be found in the house. It seems like he has left the house entirely. That's when it happened. Swoosh. Suddenly, Kim Young Hoon appeared out of thin air, like a ghost. What the? Haha. I tried using one of the techniques written in the scripture, and you really couldn't find me. This book is indeed an incredible martial arts text. Young Hoon Hyung, that's... I asked him with a trembling voice. This strange technique was one that Kim Young Hoon of previous cycles only managed to use after reaching the absolute of martial arts. But now, the current Kim Young Hoon, who had not even been training for a year, was using it. It's one of the techniques written in Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts Scripture. Normally, it would be much easier to use upon reaching 5 energies converging to the origin, but I've been focusing solely on this technique for the past few days. Even though I'm only in the realm of 3 flowers, I somehow managed to use this technique. So you haven't reached the 5 energies state yet. Do you think reaching the 5 energies is a joke? Just following the insights written in the scripture will take at least 5 years. By the way, this technique is really fearsome. Even you, a peak master, couldn't notice it. If I wanted, I could assassinate anyone. I was speechless at his talent and just stared at him for a moment. By the way, I'm planning to go out and gain real combat experience in the martial world. Will you come with me? The martial world, you say? After pondering for a moment, I shook my head. No, I'm fine, Young Hoon Hyung. What do you mean? I want to stabilize my realm a bit more. Well, that makes sense. You're still at the early pinnacle realm and can't even use the sword silk yet. Yes, it seems you'll have to go alone, Young Hoon Hyung. I said so, deciding to part ways with him for a while. The reason was just as I said. Being at the early stage of the pinnacle realm, I needed time to stabilize my skills. Following him and watching duels between great masters would be good, but it wasn't what I needed at the moment. At least until I reached the mid-stage of the pinnacle realm, training through trial and error and repetition was the answer. First, I need to get used to entering the vision of a peak master all day long. While Kim Young Hoon went out to challenge various sects, I practiced becoming accustomed to the vision of a peak master. My practice opponents were the unorthodox sect groups near Changho City. They were numerous, tenacious, and most importantly, it didn't matter if they were killed, making them perfect practice targets. The one in front is about to shoot a poison dart. There's one attacking with a spear from behind. There's someone trying to entangle my ankle with a whip from the diagonal right rear. Numerous red lines rushed towards me. I dodged all sorts of attacks from the approaching unorthodox sect members, annihilating them with minimal movement. When fighting unorthodox sect martial artists, I always blindfolded myself and plugged my ears before seeking them out. After all, I could kill all of them in the vision of a peak master without any senses. For about 3 years, I trained by capturing gangs of evil martial artists, bandits, and robbers near Changho City. Finally, I was able to enter the world of the pinnacle realm all day without feeling my brain burning. My brain had completely adapted to this world. I even learned how to maintain the vision of a peak master all day without using internal energy. After 3 years of practice fighting unorthodox sect martial artists, I finally succeeded in fully entering the world of a peak master. At the same time, my financial situation improved significantly with the bounties collected in Changho City, and my nickname Infinite Fighting Spirit started to spread again. There were even those who wanted to become my disciples or follow me as martial artists. Of course, this was nothing compared to Kim Young Hoon. Nearly 3 years, Kim Young Hoon received the title of the strongest blade in Yinghua and ascended to the position of the #1 person in Yinghua martial arts. The strongest in the martial world. It was a realm reached by someone who had only been practicing martial arts for 3 to 4 years. The number of Kim Young Hoon's followers and those who wanted to become his disciples was incomparably greater than mine. Probably by now, it was time for Kim Young Hoon to be hit with the Wulin Alliance leader illness. It was always the position that came with becoming the #1 person in the world. Sure enough, Kim Young Hoon came to me again and proposed the position of deputy leader of the Wulin Alliance. Of course, knowing the future of working like a cow, I flatly refused and made an appropriate excuse. Young Hoon Hyung, I'm now going to try entering the Imperial Court. What? The Imperial Court? Yes. The reason I'm refusing your offer is to help you from the position of an official by joining the Imperial Court. Please understand. Younger brother Seo. I'm truly grateful. Of course, there was a different ulterior motive for my decision to join the Imperial Court. If I join the Imperial Court, I'll have more contact with the Cultivator clan. I was the chief strategist of the Wolin Alliance and the head of the intelligence organization Guayangak in my previous lives. According to the information I had learned at that time, the Imperial Court was more deeply entwined with the Cultivator clan than any other group in Yanghua. There were even rumors that the Yanghua Imperial family was a collateral branch of the Cultivator clan. I first applied to the Yanghua military. The military gladly accepted my application as a famous peak master in the martial world, and I quickly gained recognition, rising to the position of a general. From that position, I applied to the Imperial Guard and passed without any problems. It was the result I achieved in 5 years after returning. Your mission is to secretly guard His Majesty the Emperor and protect him with your life. As a peak master, you should be able to do that much, right? Yes, I will keep that in mind. I joined the Shadow Guards and, after 4 months of training in stealth and listening techniques, was deployed to guard the Emperor. There, I discovered a surprising fact. The Emperor is a cultivator. Whoom. I could see the red aura surrounding the Emperor, centered around his forehead. It's the cultivator's divine consciousness. The Emperor was originally a cultivator. This fact became even more certain after meeting several princes and princesses of the Imperial family. The majority of the members of the Imperial family were cultivators with divine consciousness. But it seems they're not high-ranking cultivators. They're all nowhere near that, Fox. They seem to be, at best, cultivators of the Qi refining level. I don't understand why I, a peak master, have to guard them. The Emperor's aura, casually revealed, was definitely not just first star of Qi refining. With that level of skill, the Emperor might be stronger than the entire Shadow Guards combined. Maybe the Shadow Guard exists because he's too lazy to deal with assassins himself. Unfortunately, the Emperor was the person in the Imperial family most at risk of assassination. Almost every night, assassins came, and I had to fight them off every night. Is it good that I'm gaining real combat experience almost every day? Thus, I accumulated real combat experience as the Emperor's Guard, spending 5 years as a member of the Shadow Guard. Are you managing well as the Wolin Alliance leader? In a small secret room, I was playing Go with Kim Young-hoon and asked. As the Emperor's Guard, I was officially forbidden from meeting him, the Wolin Alliance leader, so we had to meet secretly like this. Isn't it a headache? Haha, it would have been less painful if you had joined me. You're about to become younger than me, aren't you? What's the problem? Haha, well. He smiled meaningfully in response to my question. It was about time for him to undergo rejuvenation. In fact, considering the timing, it was somewhat late. The 3 flowers are just around the corner for you. It seems your internal energy has improved remarkably. Congratulations. Haha, cutting down assassins beside the Emperor. How could my skills not improve? The assassins coming to kill the Emperor ranged from low-peak masters to those at the realm of 3 flowers. Most of the time, the assassins were of a similar realm to mine, allowing me to freely engage in real battles with them. So you seem to be doing well as the Emperor's Guard? Don't even mention it. Every time I gauge the Emperor's skill, I feel a sense of doubt. Ha ha ha, the Emperor being a cultivator? That's really something. Hardly seems worth guarding. Over the past few years, Kim Young-hoon had become aware of the existence of cultivators and seemed eager to face them. By the way, Young-hoon Hyung, what do you think of these cultivators? Normally, at this point, Kim Young-hoon would have been eager to find and confront them. However, the current Kim Young-hoon didn't seem to show such intentions. To my question, he drank from his cup and said, what to say? Of course, I'd like to fight them. But, I haven't yet fully comprehended all 6 volumes of Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts scripture, especially the final phrases written in it. The final phrases written in the scripture were the realizations that Kim Young-hoon had gained at the end of the previous life. The realizations written in the scripture are such that I can't even attempt confronting them before I've fully mastered it. That's why I plan to delve into those phrases and then seek out cultivators. By then, I should be able to step down from being the Wolin Alliance leader. I see. By the way, your skills seem to have improved a bit. Kim Young-hoon smiled and poured more liquor into his cup. He's infusing his internal energy into the liquor along with the alcohol. This man is unbelievable. I drew my sword from my waist. Let's see you handle this. Whoosh. He threw the liquor cup. Strangely, not a single drop of liquor spilled from the cup. It looked like a light liquor cup, but I gathered all my internal energy and focused on the cup. Over the past 5 years, having fought continuously, I successfully transitioned from the early stage to the mid-stage peak. If the early stage of the pinnacle realm was about seeing one line upon entering that world, from the mid-stage onwards, it became possible to see both red and blue lines simultaneously. Until now, I had to give up seeing the blue line in order to see the red line, and vice versa. However, as I further entered into the pinnacle realm, it became possible to see both the red and blue lines at the same time. Swish. With the vision of a peak master, I could see countless red lines extending from the cup. At the same time, The optimal paths I could take to counter it appeared as blue lines. Through this liquor cup, Kim Young-hoon was revealing his intent and engaging in dozens of exchanges with me. When I tried to strike with transcending peaks, the trajectory of the red lines changed vertically. When I tried to strike upwards with ascending vein, the red line's trajectory became elusive, changing erratically. And when I tried to create chaos with landscape painting, the red lines precisely targeted the gaps in my chaos and aimed for my weaknesses. In that instant, after a fight of exchanging blows with Kim Young-hoon, I managed to create a single path that penetrated his defense. Severing mountain swordsmanship, flowing ridge. Zeom. Although the sword tip collided with the liquor cup, a storm blew, shaking the room. Realizing the internal energy in the cup was dissolved by flowing ridge, I quickly sheathed my sword and stretched out my hand to catch the falling cup. Luckily, not a drop of liquor was spilled. Phew, should you be playing with food? What? Besides, you've improved significantly. The realm of Sword Silk is just around the corner. Sword Silk. Sword energy compress is akin to a silk thread, the first step where the originally formless sword energy materializes. In his past life, Kim Young-hoon thought that, given my high understanding of sword energy, I would quickly reach the level of Sword Silk once I ascended to the pinnacle realm. He overestimated my talent. Even now, 10 years after my return, I have yet to realize the state of Sword Silk. Thankfully, after reaching the mid-stage of the pinnacle realm, I can see a glimmer of hope. It was fortunate that it wasn't as difficult as the transition from the late first rate to the pinnacle realm. Well, anyway, didn't I say I was on the verge of reaching the 5 energies state? Yes, you did. In fact, I am at a level where I can challenge the 5 energies realm at any time. However, if someone attacks me while I'm challenging the 5 energies realm, I would be helpless, so I need to call someone trustworthy to guard me. So you're asking me to guard you? Haha, yes. I went with Kim Young-hoon to his secluded training room. There's no one as trustworthy as someone from the same hometown. Of course. Let's get started. All right. Kim Young-hoon sat in the middle of the training room and began his deep meditation. A change began to occur in his energy. I entered the vision of peak masters and observed the red lines around him. I felt like it was something I needed to do. The red lines of peak masters usually connect their arms to their weapons. However, the red line between Kim Young-hoon's hand and his saber began to change. That is, dozens of branches extended from the red line. Simultaneously, his red line seemed to cover everything around him. If I were to enter that space, I felt like I would be sliced by Kim Young-hoon's attack immediately. Any peak master, unless insane, would not dare enter that space. No, that's not it. I noticed a familiar change, and my pupils constricted. The red line covering all around Kim Young-hoon began to fill in the gaps. His surroundings gradually became a red domain. It looks like the divine consciousness of the cultivators. The red domain centered around the cultivators' foreheads. It looked just like their consciousness. Whoosh. Kim Young-hoon's domain became clear, with not a single gap remaining. When the form of the domain stabilized into a sphere about half a zhang, approximate 1.67 m, in radius centered around his forehead. The energy around him seemed to be sucked in, forming a certain flow within his domains. These flows slowly merged, forming 5 spheres above his head. The phenomenon that occurs when transitioning to the 5 energies converging to the origin. I had never observed the transition to the 5 energy state so closely before. In fact, during my first-rate days, it was impossible to observe such subtle flows of energy. It was only after becoming a peak master, my ability to read others' energy dramatically improved, allowing me to observe this phenomenon. What a pity. I suddenly felt a sense of regret. If I had reached the realm of 3 flowers, I might have been able to see much more. For now, let's closely observe his current state. I intensely focused on the 5 spheres, the flow within them, the principle of how these 5 spheres revolve around each other, the principle behind the spheres floating above Kim Young-hoon's head. Although I didn't understand everything, these fragments of realization seemed enough to give me a sense of the Sword Silk. Then it happened. SSSRR. The 5 spheres crumbled, transforming into 5-colored energy. The 5-colored energy entered Kim Young-hoon's nose and mouth, and his body began to change. Crack, creak. His body twisted. Kim Young-hoon's bones and flesh changed, and the wrinkles on his skin disappeared. Simultaneously, lush hair grew on his previously bald head. Creak, crack, whoosh. All the energy in the training room seemed to be sucked into him, and he half opened his eyes. I've safely reached the 5 origins converging to the origin. Congratulations. You've undergone rejuvenation. He looked younger than me, in his 20s. I had seen this scene in my past life, but this time I gained much from it. It's a pity for you. If you had reached 3 flowers, you could have seen much more. I was just thinking that. What can I do? It's my fault for having limited skills, but it must have been somewhat helpful. so think it over once you return. He seemed to like his now lush hair, touching it. Suddenly, I asked him a question. You must have encountered 1 or 2 cultivators, right, Young-hoon Hyung? Yes. Right now. To my eyes, the consciousness they possess and the domain you've formed seem very similar. Do you think there's a connection? After pondering for a moment, he spoke. It seems likely. Within this domain, I think I can fight equally with those chi refining stage cultivators. Using the martial arts from the gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts scripture, I might even be able to fight against higher-level cultivators. Perhaps, those who have reached the 5 energy state might share a similar field of vision with cultivators. I see. Through his answer, I could roughly imagine why those who have reached the 5 energy state in martial arts obtain the same kind of consciousness as cultivators. Obtaining the same consciousness as the cultivators, it might be possible to train like them. The world seen by the first rate is different from the peak realm. The world seen by the pinnacle realm and 3 flowers is also different. The world seen by 3 flowers gather at the summit and the 5 energies converging to the origin is entirely different. The reason why those who have reached the 5 energy state can train in cultivators' techniques might be because they can see areas invisible to ordinary people. This experience will help when I reach the 5 energies realm in the future. After receiving some martial arts guidance from Kim Young-hoon that day and chatting for a bit, I returned to the Imperial Palace. I mulled over the situation he showed me when he ascended to the 5 energies and gathered my realizations. A few days passed. That day, too, I was guarding the Emperor's bedroom in the darkness. SSSRR. Someone approached from the darkness, writhing in the distance. It was an assassin again, a peak master. Judging by their energy, he had just reached the pinnacle realm. However, I didn't let my guard down. Although I was slightly stronger, the difference between the mid and early stages of the pinnacle realm was not as significant as between first rate and peak. Moreover, the opponent was a master of assassination, daring enough to attempt assassinating the Emperor. Swoosh! A red line appeared from the darkness and lunged at me, guarding the Emperor's bedroom. Clang! I deflected the dagger with my sword and threw a hidden weapon at the assassin's ankle. The assassin hastily dodged my hidden weapon and stabbed at me again with his dagger. Our exchanges intertwined. My blue line and his red line crossed in the air. Strange. I should be focused on the fight, yet I couldn't stop thinking about the situation when Kim Young-hoon ascended to 5 energies. At the same time, I began to ponder about sword energy. Sword energy indicates the beginning of achieving unification with the sword. In the mid-stage of the first rate, one manifests sword energy and begins to reach the threshold of unification with the sword. In the late stage of the first rate, one achieves complete unification with the sword and can use proper sword energy. Why, in a life-or-death situation, am I thinking about sword energy and the image of Kim Young-hoon ascending to 5 energies? As one ascends to the pinnacle realm and constantly sees the optimal path, as long as you follow that path, sword energy never extinguishes. That's why Kim Young-hoon in my past life advised me to train to maintain sword energy all day long. My optimal path is ultimately the limit my swordsmanship points to. Sword energy is the extreme manifestation of my swordsmanship's characteristics through unification with the sword. Swordsmanship is sword energy. These were my feelings during my martial arts training. Wait, no, something's off. But suddenly, I felt something was wrong with my thinking. The assassin stabbed at me 3 times in a row, and I deflected their dagger with landscape painting before destabilizing their balance with the entering mountain. His red line stretched towards me and then split. After stabbing, he will change his move. I blocked his intention with my blue line and engaged in a struggle. If swordsmanship is sword energy, then what's the significance of a martial artist? Couldn't cultivators just create moving puppets or zombies, teach them swordsmanship, and have them use sword energy? Why haven't I heard about inanimate objects using sword energy in my several lifetimes? Sword energy is not just swordsmanship. Then what is sword energy? While exchanging blows with the assassin, his red line pierced through my blue line. His dagger aimed precisely at my forehead. Sword energy is. I remembered the scene when Kim Young-hoon entered 5 energies, a red domain forming around his forehead. Ah, that's it. Though sword energy is created by swordsmanship, at its core, it's ultimately about the human, the intent of the martial artist wielding the sword. Simultaneously, I fully understood the true nature of the red and blue lines I had seen. Not just the optimal path or the opponent's intention of attack. It's the intent of martial artists unfolding their martial arts. The direction of their intent. Realizing this, I felt a strange sensation in my hand holding the sword, as if veins were growing from the sword into my skin, entering my hand. Not just a simple unification with the sword, but a stickier, more profound unification. Instinctively, I pushed more intent into the sword, deepening the unification. Until now, I thought sword energy was the same as swordsmanship. but I realized that swordsmanship is completed together with the martial artist who unfolds it. Therefore, wherever the intent of the martial artist goes, even if it deviates from the swordsmanship, it will still be swordsmanship. Whoosh! I swung my sword wildly at the assassin. Before, if I deviated from the Severing Mountain swordsmanship, the power of my sword energy would significantly weaken. But now, even when I swing my sword randomly, the power of my sword energy doesn't decrease at all. No, this isn't the end. I knew that my recent realization was not just this. I continued to focus on sword energy. Until recently, to evolve sword energy, I had to momentarily strengthen the energy with techniques like Chi Mountain, Heart Heaven. It's different now. Continue to infuse the sword energy with intent. In the world of the peak, I saw my sword gradually enveloped in blue light. At some point, reaching a critical moment, my blue light-enveloped sword transformed into the blue thread of the pinnacle realm. In reality, I was holding a sword, but in the vision of peaks, I was holding a blue thread. This is sword silk, the proof of maturity in the mid-stage of the pinnacle realm. Keening. In reality, my intangible sword energy became thin like a silk thread, subtly materializing. After about 10 years in the pinnacle realm, I reached the mid-peak stage and could freely use sword silk. Chapter 20, Peak Master 3. I looked at the sword silk I had awakened. The realm of sword silk, also known as sword aura. The materialization of sword aura was a realm every swordsman dreamed of. Of course, there was the overwhelmingly superior sword gang. But since sword gang was a realm only reachable by masters who had reached 3 flowers gather at the summit, it was half legendary in the martial world. The realm of sword aura, much more accessible than sword gang, was the object of envy for many. Seeing my sword aura, the assassins seemed daunted, their energy diminishing. I took advantage of this and engaged them again in combat. Blue and red lines crossed in the air. Our intents tested each other. The assassin's dagger lunged at me. Simultaneously, 5 red lines extended from the tip of their dagger. It meant that there could be at least 5 follow-up moves derived from this attack. However, I held sword silk. In the world of peak masters, my sword had transformed, resembling a thread. To the assassin's eyes, my sword must have appeared like a red thread. The transformation of sword energy into sword silk is not just about increased power. Swoosh! From the tip of the sword, now a blue thread, several blue threads extended, creating paths. There were far more than the paths I had created before. As I slightly twisted my wrist, adjusting the tip of the sword, the position of the blue threads moved in unison. The predetermined blue thread lines moved. Seeing this, the assassin's eyes widened in shock. Last time, when I fought with Kim Young-hoon, it was fortunate he had only recently reached 3 flowers, and that too by directly skipping over the pinnacle realm. If he had fought me in the same manner, I would have been defeated instantly. I could project far more paths, more freely. Though they seemed to fend off my sword for a while, eventually, the paths extending from my side were far more numerous, and they began to be pushed back as Tae tried to calculate my moves. Mountain Lord Martial Arts. Pressing forward with the momentum of a Mountain Lord. Transcending peak step. Starting again from the first move, continuously linking techniques. To drain and kill the opponent. Clang, 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 clang. For a while, our sword and dagger collided. The assassins seemed to fight to the end. However, having become much more skilled in handling sword aura and intent, I eventually defeated them in our struggle, allowing me to land a strike. Thud! My leg struck the assassin's waist. The assassin fell to the side, dropping the dagger, and their mask came off. Oh, a familiar face. The assassin was one of the recently appointed female attendants of the Emperor. Seeing the roughly 20-year-old's face, I marveled quietly. Such talent to be a peak master at that age. You could have reached 3 flowers gather at the summit if you had lived longer. My brother was more talented. But, because of the Emperor. Oh, are you trying to appeal to emotion? You are the infinite fighting monster, correct? You're making a mistake. People are dying because of the Emperor's orders. Swoosh. I didn't listen further and cut off the assassin's head. Sorry, but this position doesn't allow for much listening. I felt a slight regret for having to eliminate such talent and, with the help of others, cleaned up the scene. Despite the noise outside until a moment ago, the Emperor in the bedroom seemed not to stir. I heard that a cultivator had installed a soundproofing spell in the Emperor's bedroom for the light-sleeping Emperor. Thanks to that, the Shadow Guards could fight assassins without being reprimanded for the noise. Though, it seems the Emperor himself set up that spell, not a random cultivator. In fact, no one in the Shadow Guard was unaware that the Emperor was a cultivator. In the eyes of a peak master, the consciousness of a cultivator was visible, but everyone just silently guarded the Emperor as it was their given duty. However, were there always so many assassination attempts on the Emperor? Establishing a Shadow Guard like us was also a recent event. I heard that the frequency of sending assassins to the Emperor had also increased recently. As chief strategist of the Wallin Alliance and leader of an information organization in my past lives, I had never heard of such things. After all, the imperial court had no reason to advertise the increase in assassination attempts. Why have there been more recent assassination attempts on the Emperor? Yanghua had been enjoying an unprecedented peace recently. Of course, the poor are still poor, but at least ordinary people weren't turning into bandits or anything of that sort. Considering the level of civilization akin to medieval China, that's quite decent. Moreover, in the state of Yanghua, the nobles humbly bow and obey in front of the powerful royal authority of the Cultivator clan, leading to a very strong centralized power. If there was an insane organization bold enough to attempt the assassination of the emperor, could it be the martial arts factions? Given the poor relations between the government and certain martial arts factions, this was the only assumption I could make. But strangely, during my past lives as the chief strategist of the Wallin Alliance and leader of an intelligence group, I never heard of such incidents. If not the martial arts factions, then who could be sending assassins so persistently and frequently to threaten the emperor? Especially someone like the assassin just now, someone who knew my alias. Furthermore, their command of the Yanghua's language was quite proficient. From this, I could infer that they were neither assassins from the neighboring countries of Biokra or Shengzi. They are people of Yanghua. People from Yanghua are sending assassins to kill the emperor on a regular basis. Although I wanted to interrogate the assassins, they were to be executed immediately before they could say anything, as per the protocol. Well, I can slowly figure it out. By staying in the royal palace and gradually gaining the emperor's trust, I would be able to gather the necessary information over time. I hid in the darkness again, organizing my thoughts. After guarding the emperor for 10 years, I constantly guarded him and earned his trust. With that authority, I was able to learn information from various parts of the royal palace. Of course, I couldn't learn core information, but I was able to learn a lot that could only be known from the government offices. For example, in the 33rd year of Heian calendar, thanks to His Majesty the Emperor's grace, the number of orphans and beggars greatly decreased, eliminating the influx of bandits. Consequently, praises for His Majesty never ceased throughout Yanghua. Census conducted by the government offices. The census was a matter directly related to taxation and was controlled only by the government offices. I couldn't properly access such information even with my status in past lives. Only now that I had become part of the Emperor's Guard, I was granted the authority to view the census records. Not only beggars, but also the number of poor peasants decreased. In my past lives, I never looked into the numbers of orphans, beggars, or poor peasants. However, upon seeing the census records in the royal palace, I realized something was amiss. How could the number of orphans, beggars, and poor peasants decrease like this? It wasn't simply about helping the poor and creating livelihoods for them. Many of these people simply disappeared, just vanished. Did they starve to death? But the numbers recorded in the ledgers were far too large for mass starvation. If such a large number had died of starvation, I would have known about it in my past lives. It's not starvation. They were simply erased. There were no records of bandit attacks either, and during my time leading the intelligence group, I had never heard of bandit gangs specifically targeting and killing the poor. If such cruel bandits were rampant, I would have known. I looked into a few more pieces of information and methodically compiled them with my past lives knowledge. As a strategist in the Wallin Alliance, Kim Young-hoon and I eradicated the unorthodox factions throughout Yanghua and established a just world. Furthermore, when I founded the intelligence organization, Guayangak, it was strangely easy to quickly defeat other dark intelligence organizations in secret battles. The common point in both lives was that, as life went on, it became easier to eradicate unorthodox factions. And towards the latter part of life, many factions, like the Hojang faction, group that mass attacked MC when he challenged them to a spar, suddenly transformed from unorthodox factions to righteous ones. Unorthodox factions are fundamentally illegal organizations. Like bandits and pirates, these factions often start with beggars, orphans, and poor peasants turning to robbery out of hunger. As bandit gangs and pirate groups gradually gather experience, power, and funds, they grow in size, sneak into cities, and start engaging in illegal activities, becoming proper unorthodox factions. Perhaps, the ease of eradicating unorthodox factions in my past lives was because, if the content of this census is accurate, the new blood that would have been part of the unorthodox factions, the poor, suddenly disappeared, leading to reduced size of the factions and their subsequent suppression. If that's the case, where did all these erased, poor people go? As I compiled the information, a foreboding feeling came over me. The Cultivator clan. This case seemed to be related to the Cultivator clan. The recent increase in assassination attempts on the Emperor and the establishment of the Shadow Guard. It all seemed to have some connection with the disappearance of the poor people. A few years ago, like the assassin with the dagger I met, there were assassins who, due to their lack of proper education, spilled their guts before dying. Most of these assassins said the same thing before dying. Do you know how many commoners have died because of the emperor? It was strange. The current emperor, while not a sage king, was decent enough to rule the country. His reign did not worsen Yanghua nor lead to numerous deaths. In a peaceful country like this, why would assassins say such things? The Cultivator clan. This is related to the Cultivator clan. The only thing I couldn't find out, even after digging this deep, was regarding the Cultivator clan. It seems I will have to leave the investigation beyond this point. To Kim Young-hoon. The retirement ceremony of Kim Young-hoon, the first Wolin Alliance leader, was held. He stepped down from the position of leader amidst the congratulations and regrets of many. Many lamented his retirement, but his eyes were full of refreshment. Naturally, as his stepping down from the position of Wolin Alliance leader meant he had fully understood the 6th volume of Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts Scripture, especially the final realizations. Feeling refreshed, I see. I was waiting in Kim Young-hoon's room and asked him when I saw him. Wow. Someone sneaked in, so I thought it was an assassin, but it was you. The Shadow Guard is becoming more and more like an assassin. Well, we're becoming more like those assassins we face. But now that you've retired from the Wolin Alliance, what will you do? You know and still ask? Having fully understood the scriptures, I will now seek out the Cultivator clan to fight and gather combat experience. I will move beyond the 5 energies converging at the origin. Have you completely achieved the accomplishments written in the scripture? At my question, Kim Young-hoon shook his head and spoke. No, not yet. Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts Scripture is not so much a martial art as it is a kind of martial arts system. You know, we don't call third-rate, second-rate, first-rate, peak as martial arts. They are the standards and stages of martial arts. The scripture describes the next stage after 5 energies. It tells you how to reach that next stage, what kind of training is correct at 5 energies stage, and so on. While I have understood all of the scripture, I haven't internalized it to move beyond 5 energies. From now on, I plan to fight against the Cultivator clan to gain combat experience and reach the beyond. I see. I nodded and then told him. Actually, working in the royal palace recently, I've noticed something very suspicious. I explained to him about the information and conclusions I had gathered. Hence, I believe the Cultivator clan behind the royal palace is using the royal family and government offices to kidnap or slaughter the poor. But since I am a member of the Shadow Guards, unless I apply for leave like this, it's difficult to leave the capital. Even if I do, I can't freely investigate the Cultivator clan. Therefore, I would like you, Young-hoon Hyung, to go and gather information regarding the Cultivator clan. That's definitely worth looking into. But even I honestly don't know where to find cultivators. Don't worry about that. I will provide you with the information. Having worked in the royal palace, I had learned the locations of several places where cultivators lived, which I did not know in my past lives. I'll give you the information, and I'd like you, Young-hoon Hyung, to go and extract information from them. All right, I'll do that. I'll go and see what they are up to. I decided to thoroughly unravel the schemes of the Cultivator clan through Kim Young-hoon. Recently, the number of assassins has decreased a bit. For nearly 10 years, assassins came almost incessantly, but recently, their frequency has been gradually decreasing. Moreover, the skills of the assassins who came had greatly diminished from the peak level to about the first rate. First-rate masters are now just practice targets for the new recruits. Well, thinking about it, it was impossible for the assassin's side to infinitely produce peak masters. As they kept sending them and getting killed, they would eventually run out of high-quality assassins to send. Having worked in the Shadow Guard for 15 years, my rank has risen, and I've been promoted to deputy leader. If the leader retires due to aging, I'm set to become the next leader. But if we keep getting only low-grade assassins like this, our Shadow Guard becomes redundant. That's when I noticed something stirring in the distance. An assassin. What level of mastery might this assassin have? If it's around first rate, the new recruits should handle it. Thinking so, I entered the world of peak martial artists to gauge the assassin's level of skill. Exclamation point. A red glow filled the space, stable and circular. The round form of the assassin's consciousness was slowly approaching. Cultivator. These madmen, seeing the decline in peak martial artists, directly sent a cultivator to assassinate. Suddenly, the entire secret Shadow Guard assembled in front of the Emperor's chamber, having recognized the domain of the cultivator. It's a cultivator, everyone get ready. The leader of the secret Shadow Guard raised his halberd with a tense voice. Despite being called assassin, the cultivator's stealth techniques and perception methods were a mess by the standards of martial artists. Clearly, they had only roughly learned these techniques. However, I grew more tense seeing this. How did they infiltrate the Imperial Palace with such sloppy skills? They must be hiding something. Noticing us, the cultivator who was approaching stopped. Are you all peak martial artists? Annoying. Peak masters all seem immune to stealth techniques. Is it because of that irritating vision of theirs? Without a second thought of hiding, the cultivator dropped his invisibility and blatantly walked out. With your eyes, you should recognize I'm a cultivator. If you value your lives, get lost. No one reacted or responded to his words. Tisk, do you think you can take me on? Relying on numbers? You'll only meet a dog's death. One last warning. The limit of you peak martial artists is, at best, against a chi-refining first-star cultivator. I am a great second-star cultivator. The air around him stirred as he pulled out a talisman. Just as there's a significant difference between first-rate and peak, there's a huge gap between chi-refining first-star and second-star cultivators. If you don't leave now. We didn't let him talk further and quickly charged towards him. My thrown weapon hit an invisible barrier in front of the cultivator, indicating he was casting defensive spells. As peak martial artists attacked him, he scattered talismans into the air, which transformed into bright white flying daggers heading towards us. You fools. I have several talismans to support my assassination today. When the cultivator scattered several talismans, a strong repulsion was felt. The leader and I, excluding the others, cut through the repulsion with our energy-infused weapons and held our ground, while the rest were thrown back. Are you the strongest of the pack? Again, the cultivator took out a talisman. Flames appeared above his hand. If it hits, it'll turn us to ash. I couldn't ignore my survival instincts and retreated, escaping the cultivator's area of influence. I couldn't predict his attacks from within his domain, as it was impossible to read his intent due to the overlapping red color. Conversely, if I retreat too far, I'd be at a disadvantage against a cultivator adept at long-range attacks. He's forcing a fight that's advantageous to him. The compatibility between martial artists and cultivators is extremely bad. The fireball hit a pillar behind me, but didn't spread much and was quickly extinguished, indicating the cultivator didn't want the situation to escalate. I signaled a few of the faster members of the Shadow Guard to escape the cultivator's vicinity and call for reinforcements. Where do you think you're going? You can't escape. A dark shadow burst out as the cultivator waved another glowing talisman, forming a barrier that enclosed us. Even sound will not escape this barrier. After I kill all of you, I'll take care of the Mockley clan's branch family. The cultivator took out dozens of talismans. Damn it, what a shit situation. If it weren't for the talismans he brought, we might have been able to kill him with a combined attack from the leader and me. But with those talismans, he was demonstrating far more power than his actual skill level. If only I had reached the 3 flowers stage. With the strength of 3 flowers, I could shatter the cultivator's defensive spells and split him in 2. But I was only at the mid-peak and hadn't yet grasped the 3 flowers. But maybe. Leader, I have a plan. What is it? Create a moment for me to approach the cultivator. Just one, single moment. I'll try to inflict a fatal wound on the cultivator. I'll trust you. The leader nodded and charged at the cultivator with his halberd, creating an opportunity for me. I took poison from a bottle at my waist and applied it to my sword. If I can break through his defense and graze him with this sword, we would win. I joined the attack on the cultivator. The cultivator scattered talismans in the air, which turned into bright white flying daggers aimed at us. I rushed towards the cultivator. The white daggers targeted my forehead. The leader's halberd spun and deflected the daggers aimed at me. The cultivator then hurled a fire spell at me. A recruit, a dual sword user, crossed his swords and sent energy to intercept the fire spell, altering its course. I was now within 3 yards of the cultivator, entering the cultivator's domain now. I couldn't guarantee my life inside there. I couldn't see his intent due to the red surroundings. Humph. Intense wind blew, pushing me away. Using the initial forms of Severing Mountain swordsmanship, I cut through the wind's weak points and entered the cultivator's area of consciousness. I couldn't see the enemy's intent. Then, my last life's experience, maximizing all senses like spatial form, hearing, touch, and smell, helped me indirectly calculate the enemy's attacks. Left and right. I felt vibrations in the air on both sides. Something was coming. Leader, go now. Capture him. One of the guards tackled the spell on the right, while the leader shattered the one on the left with his halberd. And front. I sensed a change directly in front. The temperature and humidity were different. In the cultivator's domain, white ice materialized in the air, forming an arrow. Severing Mountain swordsmanship, entering mountain. I quickly switched to a lower stance to narrowly avoid it, then launched an attack. But right in front of me was the cultivator's defensive spell. As expected, even as I launched a surprise attack, the cultivator looked bored. Absolute leisure. I'll wipe that languid expression off your face. I smirked, infusing different moves into my attack. Severing Mountain swordsmanship, Chi Mountain, Heaven Sky. The flow of the sword's silk quickened and strengthened. My entire body's energy pathways momentarily opened, further amplifying the sword's silk. And then, I'll squeeze out all the energy in my body. Focusing on the energy pathways, I drained all my energy into my sword. The absurd energy of yellow bamboo roots of hundreds of years infused into my sword. The sword silk evolved in an instant. Flash. Sword gang. For a brief moment, less than a second, the light on my sword pierced through the cultivator's defensive spell like tofu. Translator notes. Can this be considered a cliffhanger? Chapter 21, Peak Master 4. Cut. Fight. Squeezing out every bit of my willpower, I lunged at the cultivator's leg with my sword. The cultivator, who had been relaxed until now, contorted his face in shock as my sword gang penetrated his defensive spells. Then, shuck, crack, crack, the sword gang, created by draining all my internal energy, extinguished like a candle in the wind. My energy was insufficient. Despite pouring decades worth of internal energy into it, lacking enlightenment, I couldn't maintain the sword gang for more than a second. My sword barely nicked the cultivator's leg, cutting through his clothes and inflicting a minor wound. Ugh! As the sword gang extinguished, my sword could no longer penetrate his defensive spell. Simultaneously, the backlash of using all my internal energy hit me, causing blood to spill from my mouth, draining my strength, and leaving me collapsed on the spot. Cough, cough, blood splattered with each cough. It felt like my insides were being churned. You filthy mortal. Enraged by my attack, the cultivator scattered talismans that transformed into glowing daggers, stabbing my arms and legs. Ugh, art. I endured the pain, trying to grasp my sword, but the cultivator stomped on my hand. You filthy mortal scum. Thump, thump, thump. He stomped on my hand mercilessly, spreading a more powerful defensive barrier around us. How dare you? How dare you attempt to cut me? You, of all people. I am a noble descendant of the cultivator clan, not someone lowly mortals like you can touch. How dare you? How dare you? After crushing my hand for a while, he reached into his pouch and scattered another handful of talismans. I planned to toy with you before killing the Mockley clan's branch family, but I've changed my mind. I'll tear all of you mortals to shreds like insects. Flames engulfed the talismans, transforming them into fireballs, and started shooting towards the guards. Watch carefully, insect. You'll see all your comrades torn to death before I chew you up. You insects, no matter how much you struggle, are meaningless before cultivators. Cough, cough. More blood gushed out of me. My internal organs were shaken from expending all my internal energy at once, blurring my vision. But my hearing was still clear enough to catch a few words. Insect. Meaningless. Yes, I am nothing but an insect. Compared to those truly talented, to the cultivators. But, I struggled. With my crushed hand, I grabbed the cultivator's ankle. I may be an insect, but even an insect's struggle is not meaningless. You filthy thing, let go of me. Fire erupted in the cultivator's hand again. It would have incinerated me instantly, but it's time. The fireball extinguished as time passed. What? Why isn't it? Blood flowed from the cultivator's eyes, nose, and mouth. The poison works. I smirked at the bewildered cultivator, grabbed his ankle tighter, and pulled hard. He collapsed. Ah, antidote. He reached for his pouch. Thud. I knocked the pouch away. Gurgle. Blood foam rose from his mouth as he tried to chant a spell, but I wasn't going to let him. I climbed on top of him, shoving my crushed hand into his mouth, preventing him from chanting. You see, your death will be just as meaningless as those you looked down upon. After struggling for a while, the cultivator died. His dead body wasn't much different from the insects he had looked down upon all his life. In death, everyone is equal. The defensive barrier collapsed. The leader and other guards, having watched from outside, quickly came to me. The black barrier set by the cultivator disappeared, and I lost consciousness, seeing this as my last sight. When I opened my eyes, I was in my room. The leader was beside me, smoking a pipe. Ah, you're awake. Yes, but is it okay to smoke tobacco next to a patient? What are you talking about? Tobacco is a healthy herb. I can't believe this. I thought, remembering this was a medieval-like era. How's the situation with that cultivator? You killed him yourself, Deputy Leader Seo Eunhyun. He's dead. I've reported to His Majesty that you bravely sacrificed yourself to kill the cultivator, so don't worry. I've completed my mission today as well. I nodded, checking my body's condition. My right hand was still numb, and there was some damage to my vital energy channels, but it was stable. The wounds from the cultivator's daggers had all healed. The Emperor ordered the Imperial Physician to treat you. Be thankful for His Majesty's grace. The Imperial Physician healed me cleanly. I wish I could learn his medical skills. I admired the physician's skill and circulated my internal energy. Lying in bed, my body felt a bit refreshed. About your right hand. The leader looked at my hand and hesitated. It might still be usable, but not like before, is what the physician said. It's not fully healed, so don't strain it. After all, it was the hand that the cultivator had crushed and chewed. Honestly, I didn't expect it to be fine. Just being able to use it is a blessing. Good. You're positive, which is great. Also, His Majesty was impressed by your bravery and decided to award you. Since a shadow guard can't be officially rewarded, he asked me to pass this on. I hereby present you with an award on behalf of the Emperor. I kneeled as I received a small silk box from the squad leader. His Majesty decrees, Deputy Leader Seo Eun-hyun, for bravely protecting the sacred throne, we grant this reward to remind you of your heavy responsibility. Inside the silk box was a small pill with a reddish hue. It's said to be made from the same ingredients as the pills eaten by Qi refining cultivators during their transition to Qi building. I don't understand it all, but I realized what the pill was. Leftovers from a pill. Working in a medical center, I knew that leftover materials from making elixirs were often used for detox or sold to fake spiritualists. It's said to extend life by about 10 years when taken by mortals. 10 years. I was astonished. Just leftovers can extend life by 10 years. The pill looked different now. Be forever grateful for the Emperor's grace. After he left, I thought, the imperial family sure knows welfare. I planned to take the pill when my life was almost over, to test its full effect. Always grateful for His Majesty's grace. 10 years later, 30 years since my return, the pain in my hand had become familiar. My swordsmanship and hidden weapon skills improved, and I was close to uncovering the cultivator's secret. Cultivators of the Jin clan hide in powerful formations. They gather talented mortals and train them to peak masters for assassination. I understood why I never heard of these peak masters in my previous lives. If the Jin clan rises to power again, maybe it'll be slightly better than these filthy Mokli cultivators. I decided to focus more on my martial arts and Kim Young-hoon's movements. Just then, click, a figure entered through the window. Young-hoon Hyung. Kim Young-hoon had entered the palace at night. I was just reading your letter, knowing about the cultivator's domain. He interrupted. That letter was sent a month ago, but I've discovered something more critical in the past month. There are two cultivator clans in this country, the Mokli and the Jin. The Mokli clan ousted the Jin clan a century ago. Since then, the Jin clan has been planning to assassinate the Emperor using peak masters trained from mortals. Yes, I know that. But do you know why the Jin clan could produce so many peak masters? They forced the spirits of the dead family members of the assassins into the assassins, sacrificing their vitality to enhance their talents. The Mokli clan is worse. For 20 to 30 years, they've been capturing the poor to make a forbidden elixir that extends cultivators' lives using their blood and vital energy. Horrified, I shouted, Mokli clan is eating people. I instantly decided to join Kim Young-hoon in fighting these heinous cultivators. That night, I left the palace with Kim Young-hoon, ready to fight against the corrupt Mokli clan. Chapter 22, Refining 1. Following Kim Young-hoon, I left the imperial palace and arrived at a small manor on the outskirts of Seokyung City. There, I found a gathering of martial artists who had followed Kim Young-hoon. These people are. I was impressed by the caliber of warriors Kim Young-hoon had assembled. Members of the 4-star, 3 demons? There are elders from various major sects too. It seems he had used his connections from his days as the Wulin Alliance leader to gather elders from the 7 major sects of Seokyung cities, 4-star, 3 demon, and elders from some of the major sects in Yanghua. All of them were peak masters, capable of using the sword silk, and there were over 10 who had reached the level of 3 flowers gather at the summit. Without the cultivators, this force could even overthrow the imperial family. As I admired their strength, some of them glared at me, probing me with their red intents targeting my neck, forehead, and vital points. What is this, some kind of test? I responded with my intent, pointing at their vital points in kind. In a brief moment, I exchanged blows with several major sect elders. Who is this person brought by the former alliance leader, the world's #1 warrior? I've never seen such a master in Seokyung City. This man is Seo Eun-hyun, my younger brother. He was a renowned peak master in the Changho City area about 20 years ago. He recently joined us after leaving his role in the Shadow Guards. At his words, some elders seemed displeased. Why bring someone from the government? Especially someone from the imperial family? Can we really trust him if he might still be loyal to the emperor? I can't trust anyone from the government. It seems the martial sects naturally had prejudices against government officials due to generally poor relations. Wait, everyone calm down. Though he served under the emperor, he has completely betrayed the emperor after hearing my offer. Isn't that right, Seo? That's right. If you want, I can even curse the emperor. I cleared my throat and let loose the frustrations I had been holding against the emperor. Emperor Mokli Young, you despicable man. Treating your subordinates like dogs while you comfortably sleep in your chamber, shameless and lazy. I'll expose your family's atrocities to the world. Having guarded the emperor and seen him sleep comfortably in his chamber with a soundproof barrier while assassins attacked, I had often been annoyed. I never had the mindset to be loyal to the emperor of Yanghua. In fact, I even harbored some resentment towards the emperor. After my rant against the emperor, The hostility in the eyes of the gathered peak masters seemed to soften. Well, if he's a spy, he wouldn't curse the Emperor so freely. Recognizing their acceptance, I felt a sense of achievement. Once the recognition was settled, Kim Young-hoon addressed the gathered martial artists. Listen, as I said before, the current imperial family and the cultivator clan behind them, the Mockley clan, have abandoned their humanity and sucked the lifeblood of countless commoners. They are no different from cannibalistic devil path cultivator. We've gathered enough allies. Starting today, we'll join hands with the Mockley clan's opposition, the Gene Cultivator clan, and bring down the Mockley clan's strongholds. He continued his explanation. The Gene clan will support us from behind. We'll follow their lead to find the hidden domains of the Mockley clan and destroy their elixir-making furnaces where they grind commoners into pills. I hope you, the great masters gathered here, will join us in this righteous cause. There was no loud response, just silent nods. Then, let's move quickly to bring down those wicked cultivators. We followed Kim Young-hoon out of Seokyung City. In a small valley northeast of the city, known as Imikok, we met a group of red-robed cultivators waiting for us. These must be the Gene clan cultivators. I see they're quite capable, commented an elderly cultivator among them. Have you kept your promise? I brought allies. Now let's take down those vile cultivators. Yes. The wicked Mockley clan must be eradicated from Yanghua. Now, let's open the portal to the Mockley clan's domain. As the elder formed hand seals, the valley's landscape began to distort. Follow us closely. We're about to breach the Mockley clan's formations. We followed the cultivators into the twisting path, and soon, the distorted valley disappeared, leading us into a small village. It smells. Upon entering, the stench of blood and decaying bodies filled the air. Everywhere, the smell of blood and rotting corpses permeated the air. Intruders. The Genes are attacking. Dang. A bell tolled from a watchtower in the village. Simultaneously, cultivators in blue robes emerged from the thatched houses and began forming hand seals. A blue barrier enveloped the entire village, blocking our entry. You may have brought some martial artists, but you, Gene clan scum, dare not enter here. The barrier looked robust at first glance. The thickness of the blue light barrier was hundreds of times thicker than the flimsy defensive spell I had shattered with my energy in a previous encounter. That's when it happened. Step. Kim Young-hoon stepped forward. Elder, who is this mortal? Can we really trust him? The sounds of chattering cultivators in red robes from the Gene clan were heard from behind. The elder in red robes paused for a moment before responding. He may be a mortal, but he's different. It may be hard to believe, but he matched me in combat without being overpowered. Moreover, his techniques sometimes surpassed my defenses. Kim Young-hoon began to gather his internal energy. Both I and the other peak masters, even those who had reached 3 flowers gather at the summit, widened our eyes, eager to witness Kim Young-hoon's technique. Whoosh! As he raised his hand, internal energy began to coalesce in the air. The energy gradually condensed into a form of Gang Chi. The tremendous power emanating from the energy force made us, as well as the Gene clan cultivators, flinch. However, the transformation of Gang Chi was not the end. That is, I watched, wide-eyed, as Kim Young-hoon continued. The Gang Chi started to condense. Rumble. That is, in my past life, Kim Young-hoon had pursued this state in a frenzied chase. Rumble. The realm beyond 5 energies converging to the origin. The realm he had strived for until the very end was now unfolding from his hands once again. The Gang Chi solidified, taking the form of a small sphere. Everyone present could feel it. Being hit by that sphere would leave few unscathed. The strike that had burst the arm of a core formation cultivator in the past life. The technique that could confront a Chi-building cultivator head-on. The sphere of Gang Chi, directed by Kim Young-hoon's gesture, flew towards the barrier created by the cultivators. Boom. Bright light flashed, and a fierce windstorm ensued. The cultivators, each in their own way, performed spells to avoid being swept away by the storm, while we, peak masters, relied on our leg strength or cut through the wind to witness the spectacle. It was visible. Hundreds, no, thousands, tens of thousands of Gang saber burst from the sphere, slicing through the barrier. In the world of peak masters, tens of thousands of intents danced in unimaginable trajectories. The red-robed elder from the Gene clan, seemingly having unpleasant memories associated with the sphere, showed discomfort. As the windstorm subsided and the light faded, a giant hole appeared in the center of the barrier. Everyone enter. Yes, elder. The Gene clan cultivators, each using their flying spells, entered through the hole Kim Young-hoon had created. We also drew our weapons and entered through the breach in the barrier. Stop them. Block the Genes. Wait. First, stop those martial artists. Swish. The sword energy of a peak master who had reached 3 flowers instantly pierced through the defensive spell of a cultivator who had been speaking and slit his throat. A mortal has broken through a cultivator's spell. The pinnacle realm of martial artists. Retreat to the rear. Qi refining cultivators. Release the Jiangshi. Simultaneously, dark Jiangshi started emerging from various places in the village. Bang! The Jiangshi rushed towards the peak masters. Their speed was faster than ours, and their strength far superior. However, I can see it. The optimal trajectory of the Jiangshi's attacks was clearly visible. Interesting. I hadn't considered it before, but those lines represent intent. Does that mean the Jiangshi, already dead and turned into vengeful spirits, still possess intent? I dodged the hand of a Jiangshi rushing towards me. Then, using Deep Mountain, I cut diagonally and thought, is it just the intent of their controllers? No, it doesn't seem just that. But if Jiangshi have intent, why can't they use sword energy? While cutting through the Jiangshi, I noticed a cultivator preparing a spell. Swoosh. I swiftly released a hidden weapon towards the cultivator, forming hand seals. Clang. The weapon rebounded off the cultivator's defensive spell, but, inexperienced in combat, he canceled his spell preparation at the sound. Judging by the size of his consciousness, about Qi refining first star, I cut down the Jiangshi in my way and charged towards the cultivator, unleashing my sword silk. Clang. With each strike of my sword silk, visible cracks appeared in the cultivator's defense. This is pathetically weak compared to the spells used by the Qi refining second star cultivator I fought before. Although that cultivator had artificially inflated his abilities with talisman, his defensive spell was still his own ability. Clang, clang. After several strikes, the distracted cultivator's defense shattered. Hike. Spare me. Please spare me. I only did what the clan asked me to. I didn't want to do it. I'm actually... What is this? I asked. Please, I'll tell you everything. This is the primary refinement. I furrowed my brow. Primary refinement? Yes. We extract the essence and vital energy from mortals and collect it in this formation for primary refinement into essence blood. This blood is then sent to the clan's higher-ups for further refinement in higher domains. There, they mix the essence blood, refine it again through secondary, tertiary, and quaternary processes, until finally, they create fresh blood by combining thousands of mortals' blood and energy, from which they concoct revival pills for the core formation elders. Oh, great master, I did nothing wrong. If you wish, I'll give you all the essence blood I've refined. It's a powerful supplement, and consuming it could increase your internal energy. Thank you. I looked at him with a sneer. You've made it easier for me to kill you without hesitation. What? Thud. Instead of using my sword, I infused my fist with energy and burst the cultivator's head. There had been some hesitation. Even if they were devil path cultivators, perhaps there were those who lived peacefully, cultivating in this village. In this village, there is no good person. There can't be. I cast aside all hesitation and drew my sword towards the cultivators in blue robes controlling Jiangshi. You all have no right to live. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Qi Mountain, Heart Heaven. With my energy channels fully opened, I unleashed enhanced sword silk, cutting down the attacking Jiangshi in one swoop, and charged towards the blue-robed cultivators. Die, all of you. The battle ended quickly. In the center of the village, a Qi-building cultivator from the Mokli clan was swiftly killed by the combined attack of the Jin clan elder and Kim Young-hoon. With the Qi-building cultivator defeated, Kim Young-hoon went around slicing through Jiangshi and other cultivators with his energy spheres. Haha, excellent. As expected of a Mokli clan cultivator, their pockets are deep. I made the right decision joining this raid. The Jin clan cultivators, having finished looting the corpses of the Mokli clan cultivators, were rummaging through their belongings. Even the Jin clan elder was searching through the body of the Qi-building stage cultivator. Those cultivators are going too far. How can they think of looting bodies after killing them? In contrast, I and the other peak masters were visibly uncomfortable. Although I had experience in plundering weapons and wealth after killing unorthodox martial artists, I had never actively searched bodies in such a manner. Well, it's natural for the victor to claim the spoils. You mortals might not understand, but taking the spoils is also a way to honor the defeated, spoke a Jin clan cultivator, slightly flushed, trying to justify their actions. But the more he spoke, the stiffer our expressions became. Enough. It's better to leave them be. After all, they are just dead. Wouldn't it be better to leave quickly? Just then, Kim Young-hoon approached us. Wait, we have something to do. What? Are you also after the spoils? Ignoring the cultivator's words, Kim Young-hoon spoke to us. In the houses of the cultivators, there are bodies of sacrificed commoners. We should at least bury them, so they don't remain exposed like that. What do you think, masters? That's right. We forgot about them. We entered the houses where the Mokli clan cultivators had lived, dragged out the bodies of the commoners, and one by one buried them. Let them be. They're just dead. Isn't it better to leave quickly? The Jin clan elder, having finished looting, looked annoyed at Kim Young-hoon, who was digging the ground to bury the bodies. However, neither Kim Young-hoon nor any of us paid attention to him, continuing to silently bury the bodies. How much time has passed? After burying all the numerous bodies, we recited a short rite led by Kim Young-hoon and prayed they would rest in peace and not become evil spirits. We then left the village. Chapter 23, Refining, 2. Kim Hyung. What is it? Why are those called cultivators so heartless? How would I know that? I frowned, thinking about the conduct of cultivators. From the monsters we encountered at the beginning of the regression, who ignored everything we said, to the cruel method of pill-making by the Mockley clan, and the cultivators of the Jin clan who rummaged through the dead and criticized us for trying to bury them. I can understand searching the bodies 100 times over. But why do they think burying the dead is a waste of time? Why are their thought processes so different? Perhaps, since they have been seeing the world of the 5 energies converging to the origin from birth, their way of thinking is different from ours. Plus, they've spent their whole lives not treating mortals as humans. I sighed, frustrated. The cultivators of the Jin clan informed us of the next gathering place and left the village, closing the formation of the Mockley clan territory and flying away on their flying devices. We were currently following them. A difference in perspective? Or is it the inherent arrogance of cultivators? Or is it that all cultivators turn out that way? I wondered if it was right for me to become a cultivator. We continued to follow the guidance of the Jin clan's cultivators, destroying one stronghold of the Mockley clan after another. 5 years had passed since I left the Imperial Palace. Look, Eun-hyun, it's your face. I saw my face on a wanted poster, wandering around the marketplace. Not just mine. Kim Young-hoon, as well as countless martial arts masters who followed him, were on wanted posters. The charge was treason. Treason? What nonsense. After all, it's just the lower forces of the cultivator clan. Even if they issue wanted posters, we can walk around the streets without any problems, thanks to the facial manipulation technique you created. That's good to hear. Over the past 5 years, I had developed a technique called reverse appearance technique, using my medical knowledge and transformational skills to manipulate facial muscles and change appearances. Thanks to that, we could walk around the streets freely, even though we were wanted. So, where's the next stronghold? It's on the western side of Lianshan City, on the hills. One of Mockley clan's pill-making furnaces is located there. This time, the furnace we are going to destroy is especially huge, so there will probably be a lot more cultivators from the Mockley clan. That's likely. And from what I've heard, there are also a significant number of peak martial artists raised by the Mockley clan. They are not just simple Jiangshi, but actual peak martial artists, so we need to be a bit more cautious. Peak martial artists. I looked up at the sky. 35 years since regression. It took around 10 years to reach the mid-stage of the pinnacle realm since the regression, and now 25 years later. My realm had not changed. Is my talent not enough to reach the 3 flowers gather at the summit? 3 flowers gather at the summit. Kim Young-hoon and other experts of that realm have been consistently giving me clues regarding it. The third color. Red thread signifying hostility. Blue thread signifying self-intent. Beyond that, the need to find and see the third color to reach that realm. But, in a fight, there's me and you. What else is there beyond that? There's definitely something beyond me and you. The very existence of the 3 flowers realm itself proves it. Ugh. Ignoring the screaming pain in my hand, I held the sword and felt the thread of those around me as I walked down the street. I can see others' threads. I can see my own threads. But beyond that, no matter how hard I look, I can't see anything. Enlightenment still hasn't come. Even when I asked Kim Young-hoon about 3 flowers gather at the summit, I couldn't understand his words well. Originally, when Kim Young-hoon reached the peak, he didn't go through the early or middle stages, but directly achieved 3 flowers. Asking him about transitioning from the middle stage to 3 flowers was nonsensical. Of course, I asked other masters of 3 flowers how to transition into it, but the answers I got were, immerse yourself in the state of selflessness. Understand that there is no you and no me. Contemplate the purity of martial arts. All of these answers were metaphysical in nature. Someone is staying in this place because they don't want to fall into a state of selflessness. Ignoring the tearing pain in my hands, I swung my sword for years. No matter how much I maintained the unity of sword and body, and fought life-threatening battles multiple times, the miracle of suddenly leaping to a higher realm never happened to me. While it wasn't as despairing as when I first reached the peak, climbing higher required tremendous talent and effort again. There are many masters at the peak here. The stronghold of the Mockley clan, located to the west of Lianshan City. If there are many masters, I might gain something by fighting them. Somehow, I felt that the stronghold discovered by the Jin clan this time seemed like a trap. It was a judgment I made after hearing from one of the Jin clan cultivators about how they found the stronghold and its level of force. The Mockley clan wants to capture Kim Young-hoon as well as the Jin clan. And me, a traitor to the imperial family. That's why I thought this time they would be fully prepared to face us. But I'm not worried. I glanced at Kim Young-hoon walking beside me. He had been writing a book recently. The title of the book was Secrets of Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts, condensing the deep understanding of the 6 volumes of Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts scripture and integrating it into one complete book of understanding, he had said. Like the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, and gazing cultivation and exceeding martial scriptures, it was a book of profound knowledge that I couldn't understand even when I looked at it. But one thing was certain. Kim Young-hoon had surpassed his previous life's realm. Such a person could now inflict significant damage on a core formation cultivator and quickly escape. A trap is of no use. We would easily destroy their stronghold this time as well. Lianshan City. This is the place I fell in my very first life before regression. It had been a very long time since I had visited. Here I made soap, gathered herbs, brewed liquor, begged robbers to spare my life. Memories of those miserable times came flooding back. Let's go west. Yes. I wonder if the daughter of the Jew family has been born. Is the house of Lord Jiam still filled with servants strutting around arrogantly? I wonder if the persimmon tree of the Sung family still bears fruit well. After looking at Lianshan City for a while, I ran west following Kim Young-hoon. Memories that no one but I remember. Memories that only I know of, changed by my power of regression. A miraculous, incredibly grateful ability. But that's why this ability has to disappear. These memories that only I will know will continue to accumulate, and the more they do, the harder it will be for my mind to endure. Hence, I will definitely go to the previous world and eliminate this power. Until then, I will strive to be human. As a human, I will live a human life. Absolutely. I will not become corrupted by evil paths like the cultivators of the Mockley clan, nor act against human morals. Of course, those filthy evil path bastards, they can't make me dance less. Those who violate human morals, as long as I can reach them, must be punished. Tut. Arriving at the destination with Kim Young-hoon, there were already Jin clan cultivators in red robes and other peak masters gathered. The opinion that this Mockley clan stronghold is likely a trap came out in the Jin clan's elder council. Therefore, 1/3 of the Jin clan's elder council has personally come forward. Thus, you martial artists must also fight with all your might. Among the red-robed cultivators, a considerable number of chi-building cultivators with substantial consciousness were mixed in. I understand. Do not worry. I always fight with my best. Good. Then, let's open the formation. Womb. As one of the elders of the Jin clan completed a hand seal, the air began to distort. We followed the elders of the Jin clan into the formation and soon saw the village, just like before. This village was about twice the size of any territory of the Mockley clan we had seen before, with not just straw houses, but also a significant number of tiled mansions. And then, it was a trap after all. The cultivators of the Mockley clan were forming a formation and sealing spells in front of the village. Seal? The cultivators of the Mockley clan simultaneously formed their hand seals and shouted an incantation. At the same time, an enormous barrier, unlike any we had seen before, surrounded the territory of the Mockley clan. Water. Simultaneously, dozens of cultivators formed another hand seal and used a different spell. Shah. A massive surge of water gushed from behind the cultivators, rushing towards us outside the barrier. The water reeked of rotting corpses, and I had a feeling that even a single drop touching me would be disastrous. Elders, to the front. The chi-building cultivators of the Jin clan stepped forward and formed their hand seals. Flame. Wereruru. A wall of flames appeared. The giant wall of fire blocked the water flow and began to evaporate it. Push forward. Chi. As the cultivators of the Jin clan stepped forward one by one, the giant wall of fire also moved forward in sync. Mortals. We will clear the way, so break through the barrier. Understood. Pang. Kim Young-hoon sprinted forward, kicking off the ground. He leapt into the air and, stepping on thin air, headed towards the barrier. Womb. As Kim Young-hoon extended his hand, energy seemed to gather in it, and a sphere of Gang Chi burst forth from his palm. That must be the realm Kim Young-hoon achieved by condensing and integrating the 6 volumes of the scripture. The Gang Chi didn't gather chaotically in the air, but was released cleanly from his body, forming a sphere in an instant. I don't know for sure, but he must have reached and surpassed the realm the previous Kim Young-hoon stepped foot in. The preparation time for compressing Gang Chi is much shorter than last time. Before the battle began, I remembered the secrets of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts that Kim Young-hoon had given me. If I passed this technique on to Kim Young-hoon in the next life, he would surpass this realm again. Kwon. Kim Young-hoon launched the sphere at the barrier. A loud explosion roared, and a gust of wind blew. However, this time the barrier only shook slightly and remained steadfast. As expected, the Mokli clan was thoroughly prepared this time. Kim Young-hoon, without any sign of panic, extended his palm again, and another sphere of gang chi burst forth. Quong! The barrier was hit by consecutive explosions. Cracks began to form in the barrier. Kim Young-hoon extended his palm once more. Quong! More cracks appeared in the barrier. Kim Young-hoon extended his palm again. With each attack, more and more cracks appeared in the barrier. At some point, Hakon, unable to withstand Kim Young-hoon's attacks any longer, a hole was blown open in the barrier. Everyone, head towards the barrier. Burn down the Mokli's business. The cultivators of the Jin clan rushed towards the hole created by Kim Young-hoon, and the Peak Masters also rushed through the gap into the inside of the barrier. Die, you devils. When I, too, entered the barrier with my sword. Pang! The sound of air tearing apart, and something long rushed towards me. It was a halberd. Kang! I exerted sword silk and blocked the halberd. I could see the face of the person holding the halberd in front of me. I couldn't stop my pupils from shaking. Leader of the Shadow Guards. My former superior was blocking me. Behind him, the members of the Shadow Guards were lined up, holding various weapons. It's been a while. I don't know a traitor like you. Virum. The leader swung his halberd. 7 red threads emanated from his halberd. I countered his red threads with my own blue threads. My blue and his red crossed in the air. A traitor, you say? Leader, do you know what the current imperial family is doing? I know. Virum. He swung his halberd again. I parried his halberd with my threads while dodging and swinging my sword silk. You know, and yet you're loyal? Is that what a human should do? Before being human, we are the limbs of His Majesty the Emperor. Limbs do not think. They move as commanded. Since His Majesty has ordered me to capture you, I will not think either. How frustrating. In the eyes of the Emperor, mortals like us are not the same humans as him. We are not his people, but livestock he raises. Leader spun with his halberd, thrusting it 3 times, then extended chi silk towards me. I danced the transcendent peak step to dodge Leader's attacks and countered with landscape painting, covering my sword with sword silk and striking back at his chi silk. Loyalty should be given to someone deserving, not to him. All that comes from serving him is the death of helpless commoners. Our threads of red and blue intertwined. Then, breaking through my defense, Leader aimed his knee at my waist. Cook! I was hit by Leader's kick and floated in the air, turning once before landing. He's improved. The Leader, he's in the realm of 3 flowers. Is it different for you? Leader asked me with a gloomy face. Those from the Jin clan who you are with, are they different? They're better than those devils. No, the Jin clan you're with are also cultivators. The only difference from the current imperial family is the degree. They both see mortals as bugs. Do you think you're on the side of justice? Wrong. It's just a matter of scope and degree. Those people will also grind down the people of Yanghua. They're no different, but all the same. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As he swung his halberd, the wind seemed to be sucked into the leader's chest. His chi silk swirled and shot towards me. I can't block it. Like my chi mountain, heart heaven, an attack that can't be stopped even if anticipated. If there's no difference, at least I won't turn my back on the loyalty I've given now. The movement of his halberd converged to one point and shot towards me. The chi silk on his halberd strengthened and began to evolve. Hot! A brilliant light burst forth. Gang chi, if that's your belief. Seeing the gang chi rushing towards me, I relaxed the power in my sword. I will respect that as well. As I removed my intent, the sword silk around my sword disappeared, leaving only pure sword energy. I placed my sword against the incoming halberd, absorbing its power into my sword. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Echoing valley. Surprise flickered in the leader's eyes. I rotated, redirecting his gang chi back at him. Flash. Light flashed, and where the storm of light subsided, Leader stood, his right hand severed. I've lost. Your swordsmanship is always hard to predict, no matter how many times I see it. It is a swordsmanship I am still lacking in. Still lacking? Impossible. Even your move just now had the enlightenment of 3 flowers gather at the summit. It was the most beautiful technique I've ever seen. He smirked. I spent my life practicing martial arts, hoping to reach 3 flowers, but once I did, I realized I was just a lesser version of a cultivator. Unless it's the legendary realm of 5 energies converging to the origin, martial arts will always be secondary to cultivators. Ha ha, Seo Unhyun. Do you understand? Nothing matters in front of cultivators. Since nothing in martial arts matters, all that's left is the meaning I give to it. I chose loyalty, and my object of loyalty happened to be the current emperor. He smiled sadly. That you and I have different beliefs is a shame. Only. Cough, cough. Leader coughed up blood and collapsed. No more life flowed from him. He was dead. Why didn't you join the fight? I asked the other members of the Shadow Guards. If they had intervened while I was fighting Leader, I might have died. It was Leader's request. If we joined, Deputy Leader would start using hidden weapons and poison, so he asked us to let him have a pure martial duel. You still call me Deputy Leader. Once a superior, always a superior. Once loyalty is given, it is forever. Yes, you two remain loyal to the current Imperial family. I gave a sad smile to my former subordinates. I am sorry. I might have to kill you today. Papa Bat. As soon as I finished speaking, all members of the Shadow Guard drew their weapons and charged at me. Chuck. First, I scattered poison and drew out hidden weapons. Infinite fighting, hidden weapon technique. Double killing snake. Pine. I threw 2 hidden weapons, each coated with a different poison, at the Shadow Guards. All 11 Shadow Guards avoided the poisoned hidden weapons with minimal movements. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Landscape painting. Entering mountain. Flowing ridge. Deep mountain. After wielding my sword in the landscape painting style, I shifted to a low stance, aiming for balance, and made a serpentine thrust for control. I then lunged in for the attack. However, the Shadow Guards quickly dodged, and each wielded their weapons against me. Infinite fighting, hidden weapon technique. Triple-headed snake. Shook. I fitted 3 hidden weapons on my left hand and swung them like a whip at the closest guard. After swinging 3 times to create distance, I coated the hidden weapons with poison and fired them in succession. Pying. While the 3 Shadow Guards who were charging at me dodged the hidden weapons, others leaped over them, swinging their weapons. Sword, blade, curved sword, chain sword, dagger. Different weapons rushed towards me. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Strange stone. Boom. I spun my body, wielding my sword in an all-encompassing defensive and offensive posture. At the same time, I took out poison powder from my pocket and spread it around. Infinite fighting, hidden weapon technique. Illusionary snake mist. Amongst the poison powder, I sent other poisoned hidden weapons targeting the Shadow Guards, taking advantage of their moment of distraction to dodge the hidden weapons. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Entering mountain. I shifted to a low stance to aim for balance. Ugh, damn, to be at the same level as a mid-peak master. Truly the skills of Deputy Leader. Crack. I took out and chewed an antidote pill while gripping my sword tightly enough to break my hand. Ignoring the pain that felt as if my hand would break, I spoke. Don't open your mouth. Use your energy sensing technique if you want to live. The poison powder I just spread doesn't poison through the skin. Quickly applying paralysis powder to a cloth, I covered the sword blade and prepared another move. It's not a sword technique, but a saber technique. But since they share the same root, they can be used similarly. Severing vein saber method. Mountain wind. 5 consecutive strikes. Pying. A series of thrusts at a terrifying speed, too fast to react, cut through the air 5 times. Gurk. 5 members of the secret guards collapsed after being hit by my sword coated with paralysis powder. 6 left. As I faced the 6 Shadow Guards charging at me, I grasped another hidden weapon. Infinite fighting, hidden weapon technique. Red snake. I threw 3 hidden weapons at the approaching soldier wielding dual swords, each time differently. The first targeted his forehead. The second, immediately following, aimed at his ankle. The third, following that, targeted his lower abdomen. The trajectory of these hidden weapons was akin to a red snake. Ting. His dual swords deflected 2 hidden weapons, but he couldn't deflect the third. I swiftly charged in, using Transcending Peak steps and employing Transcending Peaks. Chuck. With the front of the Shadow Guard's chest slightly cut, he soon collapsed from paralysis. Are you going to keep coming at me? I asked the remaining members. Truly the skills of Deputy Leader. Truly a seasoned veteran. The difference in skills coming from that vast combat experience is simply insurmountable. They smiled at me, each holding a spear, moonblade, dual heavy swords, staff, and sword. If all cultivators are the same anyway, let's at least be good to the one we're currently loyal to, they said, agreeing with Leader's view. I smiled bitterly. That's right. Even if the Jin clan regains control of the Imperial family, the situation for mortals like us might not change. But still, just maybe, it could be a little better. With that slim hope, I pushed on with my actions. Come at me, all of you. A staff swung at me. A spear pierced towards me. A moon blade swung from the opposite side of the staff. The guy wielding the dual broadswords swings his swords from the opposite side of the spear. The guy with the sword leaps up as if flying and strikes down at me. Meanwhile, countless thread trajectories target me. Red and blue lines draw numerous orbits around me. It felt like my brain was going to burn. How can I escape this crisis? How can I? Just then, amidst those numerous trajectories, I suddenly saw a third color. PUK. The spear grazed my waist. The energy on the spear tore the flesh from my waist. Infinite fighting, hidden weapon technique. Triple-headed snake. Pying. I put 3 hidden weapons on my fingers, each coated with paralysis poison, and threw one at the Shadow Guard who swung the spear. My hidden weapon easily penetrated his trajectory and hit his shoulder. The staff spins targeting my head. I threw a hidden weapon to alter the trajectory of the staff, and then threw the last hidden weapon at the guy who threw the staff. Again, my hidden weapon easily penetrated his trajectory and embedded in his thigh. 2 of the guards became incapacitated. 3 left. I see something. Between their threads and mine. A third color, neither red nor blue. Shook. The dual broadswords swing from right to left below. I bent my waist to dodge the broadsword. But a long cut appeared from my forehead to my left jaw from the sword energy on the broadsword. The moon blade targets my waist. If I dodge upwards, it'll become a target for the guy striking from above, and if I dodge downwards, it'll be cut by the dual broadswords preparing their next move. But amidst the red and blue threads, in this life-or-death fight, my focus was on the emerging third color. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Secluded valley. Heavenly lake. Using the secluded valley, I twisted and deflected the trajectory of the guy striking down with the sword, and with Heavenly Lake, I momentarily stopped the action of the guy swinging the moonblade. In the meantime, the dual broadswords wielder who had completed his next move swung his broadswords at me again. In an instant, I threw hidden weapons coated with paralysis poison at the arms and legs of the shadow guards with the moon blade and sword. Then, I swiftly extended my sword toward the dual broadsword soldier. Severing mountain swordsmanship. Echoing valley. Between the blue and red. The color that appeared was purple. The shadow guards and my thread. That purple color, whose origin was indiscernible, showed me a new path between him and me. I followed this new path, countering the dual broadsword soldier's move with Echoing Valley. Kang! My sword cleanly sliced through his dual broadswords. As his weapon was severed, the guard seemed about to draw a dagger and charge, but I was faster in throwing my hidden weapon. Cook, it was that movement. As if I was facing leader. You could have killed all of us. It would have been much easier and painless. Why did you choose such a difficult path? Even if you didn't kill us, it would have been easier to subdue us if you were prepared to sever an arm or leg. I briefly replied to the fallen dual broadsword soldier. You called me deputy leader. Cook, you are an interesting person. That movement just now, it looked similar to leaders. An attack that suddenly breaks through the trajectories. I didn't see a red line. But suddenly the ability to penetrate the trajectory. Did you gain a new perspective? Have you reached 3 flowers gather at the summit? I shook my head bitterly at the question. No, I am sorry, but I haven't reached that realm. Then, I'm getting a sense of it. Slowly entering that realm. The third color. The purple thread was sometimes visible, sometimes not. It didn't appear consistently. So, to see purple consistently, I would need to continue fighting life or death battles. Just then, someone approached me. Someone familiar to me. From my time in the Shadow Guards, someone I had guarded a few times, and my job more difficult. The Crown Prince. Mokli Hyun. It's amazing. Deputy leader's skills are to this extent. There was a reason why my father sent me. It's been a while, Your Highness. If you've been watching since earlier, why didn't you intervene? Why intervene? It wouldn't be fun if I did. And don't call me Your Highness. Today, I'm here representing a branch of the Mokli clan, not as a member of the imperial family. Fun, you realize the entire Shadow Guards could have died at my hands. Is that fun for you, Your Highness? Don't call me Your Highness. Well, since you keep calling me that, I'll tell you something. Do you know why I became the Crown Prince? The Crown Prince began to expand his domain. His red threads started to engulf the surrounding space. I reached the same chi refining 4th star as my father at a young age. Regardless of 3 flowers gather at the summit or whatever, they can barely compete against chi refining 1st, 2nd, and 3rd star. Do you think you, who is not even in the 3 flowers gather at the summit, can defeat me? I'll ask again. Do you find this fun? TCH, it's not fun. Enough talk, come at me. As always, that annoying guy who used to bother the Shadow Guards when I was guarding the Emperor. He always questioned our necessity while speaking arrogantly. But he had the right to be arrogant. Because he was strong. So strong that not even a group of peak martial artists could stand against him. Even ordinary 3 flowers gather at the summit masters would have to risk their lives against him. However, I hadn't entered 3 flowers, just barely stepping into its boundary. Fighting against him would surely lead to my death. But why? I can feel a smile forming on my lips. Ah yes. Because it's okay even if I die. I've grasped the clue to enlightenment. So what does it matter if I die the next moment? Take care, all members of the Shadow Guards. I am now going to die. I attain the way in the morning. So, it's fine if I die in the evening. To embody this enlightenment, I am going to die today. I ran towards the Emperor's son, the Crown Prince, with my sword in hand. Seeing the faint purple thread, I felt like I could do something I never dared to attempt even after several regressions. I swung my sword. The martial art that had always been in my head, but I could never understand. Record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. As I entered the red divine consciousness of the Crown Prince, I used the martial art I had long longed for. Record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. The next moment, Co Eunhyun's form disappeared like a phantom.